Did it work or did it screw up on me?
Still says waiting to go live.
What is it? I don't have it.
In the messenger chat, there's a video link.
All right. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do this live, and then you have to re-add. I don't know, man. Setup should be working. Let me do this. Nope. All right.
Messenger chat. Oh, Facebook. I was like, what the hell is this dude talking about?
Who you on about? Re-add. I don't know, man. Setup should be working. Let me do this.
All
All
right.
right.
We would have been troubleshot the
Nope.
issue earlier, but I went to go get a new TV,
All right.
and I brought Mariah with me. Messenger chat. Oh, Facebook.
Yep. So I just reshared it. See if that works. But we are live. I'm on my end. Who you on about?
Oh.
Re-add. I don't know, man. Setup should be working. Let me do
Can you
this.
guys still
All
hear
right.
We would have been troubleshot
Yeah.
the
Nope.
issue earlier, but I went to go
Fixed.
get a new TV.
All right.
I was gonna cry.
Messenger chat. I don't know if
Okay.
everybody else should be able to.
Yep. So I just reshared it. See if that works.
I don't know if they're just not saying nothing to you.
All right. Y'all here? The viewers could be us. Okay. So I think it seems that we're live and we are. Everybody here? Crimson, Dom, Cora, Triple. We here. We heard. Y'all heard. Y'all see the screen. Everything's running fine. Okay.
Looking at it from here.
Okay. So yeah, this is gonna be the spoiler cast. Mr. Crimson finally finished the game yesterday, so we finally get together and talk about our thoughts of the game. He did want to have a real quick, brief summary of our gaming history. So who wants to start? I'll start with you, Crimson.
So for viewers, this is my first time personally doing the podcast. So I figured if this is gonna be our first episode, try to get it out the way. So as others have said, my name is Crimson. Hello, the viewers that we do have watching at the moment.
You might be counting us, but
Right. Just a quick introduction for the games that I like to play. Right now, I'm primarily playing a lot of Smash Bros. But I've been all over the board, so all games except for PC. Never put together a good gaming PC. Really enjoy a good RPG game, something that really can allow me to get lost into it. Part of the reason why we playing more of God of War, right? And Witcher 3 just dropped, so put some extra time into that. So that's what I have going on.
And Dom, just going straight down the list. What's your little brief history?
Brief history of gaming. Well, been gaming since I was 2. And I have played games across all consoles. I can't even keep track of it. Also, I'll go by Domdingo, Dom for short. Easy. And yeah, man, my video game knowledge honestly goes pretty far back. I'm able to guess times and dates of games like pretty accurately, and honestly, it's one of the things that I feel I'm pretty well versed and cultured in.
Okay. Tell us. You got that Twitch account, right? You do the Twitch stuff, yeah? Maybe
Yes.
sort of.
Yes. So got another follower today. I'm at like 100 and like 13 now, I believe, something like that. But yeah, it's just if you go to Twitch and type in Domdingo, I should pop up. I'm sitting on a throne of games, is what I should say. So it'll be easy to find. So it's just the twitch.tv/Domdingo. So I appreciate you.
Okay. And Cora, what about you? What's your history?
So I've been playing games since forever. My first game was Dead or Alive. Bigger on fighters. I'll do single player adventures. So I feel pretty confident in my ability as a gamer to judge a good game. Other than that, I really need to play more games. I need to play more video games. Definitely, God of War was a very good
Oh no.
kickoff for me coming back into the gaming world. So, no.
Okay. Yeah, you're here. You kind of like cut out for a bit.
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah. So is you got anything else here or?
Oh no, that's it. I'm excited. I have a lot to say about this God of War.
Okay. And for myself, been gaming. Crimson and I been gaming for a really long time since we were kids, all the way back on various consoles, PS1, NES, just whatever was in our household. Too young to buy our own, so it's like whoever the adults brought it in to play it, we tried to play it. So we've been playing games for a very long time now, across PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, Nintendo, et cetera. So, but yeah, I'm confident in my knowledge of gaming as well. Not to say I'm the wisest person in the room, not at all by any chance, but dude, I probably no, I definitely spend too much time playing games. But yeah, really excited to talk about God of War. I beat it not too long ago myself, but it's been a while. But don't want to waste too much time talking about the history. And well, actually, now we're going to switch over to a brief history with the God of War franchise. And Dom, you want to start off with this one? Just the original trilogy up to, or yeah, original trilogy up to 2018 and Ragnarok.
My man said you taking longer than Christopher Judge.
Shut up. The savagery.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say, by the way, when I was watching that, I was watching it historically. So I had it, I wasn't live and I had that thing going at 2 times speed. I'm like, yo, this is a really this is a
Yeah.
really long speech.
He did talk a lot, but
He was emotional. He
I
was
know
emotional.
he was. Um, so you want me to just run over the brief history? Or?
Yeah, if you played the original trilogy and what you thought of it.
So for me personally, so my memory's a little shoddy on the first. I'll say the first two. Yeah, obviously, there's a bunch thrown in between there, right? Speaking of that, there's also something I want to mention later on, moving forward. But um, so the first one, for its time, uh, more or less revolutionary, right? Just as like as Assassin's Creed was revolutionary when it first came out. But when I went back to play it, because I wanted to play the trilogy again to get all my lore up to speed, it was terrible for me. It was a terrible experience. I was like, good lord, I was bored out of my mind, man. I will say that. But I mean, for its time, it was a pretty revolutionary thing, And then you go on into the second one, same thing, same concepts. It more or less was the same thing, just a little more of a pissed off Kratos, right? And then the third one, honestly, was top tier in my opinion. Um, for its time too, and for the God of War original trilogy and series to be coming to a head, it all did in three, and three did not disappoint in any kind of way. And it gave you everything you wanted out of that game. So, and it is replayable.
All right, Cora.
So honestly, I didn't play God of War until God of War 2, and I played 3, and then the 2018, and then the current one. I did not have a PSP, so I didn't play like Ascension. I didn't play the first one because I didn't have a PlayStation 2 at the time, and I was that kid that I'm like, I'm gonna play the first one, like the newest one, not go backwards. And then when I tried to play the first one, kind of like what Ingo said, it kind of sucked.
Crimson.
So,
Oh, uh,
no,
no, you got something else? Or
did I disconnect? I
no,
felt it.
No.
you're here.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
panic.
I thought it dropped.
Don't
But
freak out.
oh no, I freaked out. But for me, God of War was amazing. I remember trying to go back to the first one to get more of the story, and it sucked. It was cringe. So I just YouTube the rest of the story that I missed in one. Um, 2018 was definitely, or 18 was definitely a breath of fresh air with the revamp of the series. So, yeah.
All right, and Crimson, how about you? What's your history, your lore?
So I'll taking a different approach with this. So I actually have started with 1, 2, and 3, and I wanted to comment, Domdingo there, that God of War 3 pretty much pushed, what PlayStation 3 was had to offer at the time. So that was definitely a pretty big moment for its time. But with the God of War series, I'm really into hack and slash games. You got the Ninja Gaiden series,
Mm-hmm.
God of War itself. So I was really in tune with that. When it came out to the story between 1 and 2, I didn't really have too much opinions about it. It was just, kid at a time just going around killing people, just murdering gods and stuff. But looking back at it, just kind of getting more into like what Kratos' drive was, and then kind of touch on a little bit more of like how that's changed him as a character. I really did enjoy the series as a whole. Now, if we're talking about how the game progressed throughout the years, yeah, definitely the gameplay is a little bit, a little trash. The animation, all that extra stuff, it didn't really age well. But touched a little bit with Ascension and a few of the other spin-off games, but mainly the God of War trilogy 1 through 3. Then jumped over to 2018, which, as Cora said, was a fresh breath of air. and I definitely enjoyed it. So that's what I have.
Gotcha.
Also, I do a lot of meetings for work, so I notice I kind of get to like a meeting mode. So if you guys hear me seem a little professional, because I'm thinking I'm still at work here. So
You're good.
We
You're
don't do
good.
professional here.
So I'm gonna definitely keep my history brief. 1 through 3, played those, enjoyed those. I haven't went back to play 1 through 2, but 3 is definitely one of my favorite great games of all time. Like the intro of you fighting Poseidon and the rest of the gameplay, the closing with you just punching the crap out of Zeus and just spamming circle for forever. I don't know how long you can go before it kicks you off. So I definitely love 3. Ascension, I didn't really like as much. It's kind of the same vibe as Gears of War Judgment had. If anyone's familiar with the Gears of War, I know you are, Dom. To where it's like it was there, it happened. I couldn't really put on my list of favorites or anything like that. And I think the only PSP game that I recall playing, I get them mixed up, but I think it was Chains of Olympus. I specifically remember I think, if I'm wrong on this one, correct me, but I think the final boss fight was Persephone when you're in hell or something like that. So that's the only thing I remember. I know there's the other one about his brother, which I didn't do.
Ghost of
Or
Sparta was another one.
yeah, I think that's the one with his brother Demos, I believe. So
Demos.
yeah, so I haven't beaten that one, but I think I played most of the main line, if not all, except for the one on PSP. And I think they probably had like a mobile version. But yeah, and with 2018, breath of fresh air, as you guys said, with the introduction of the character and just how much more, for lack of better phrasing, mature Kratos was, and how he was dealing with his past as well as trying to make a new future for himself with his family. So it was definitely enjoyed it. So what I'm gonna start off with, the background footage right now is just me, and apparently it's broken. It's just early footage of me playing the game. I thought I had cut some cuts out, but I guess I didn't. And want to start with combat, gameplay specifically. So with the gameplay, combat, enemy variety, puzzle, level design, etc. However you guys want to approach, this section would be specifically about gameplay and what you thought of it. And we're going to start with Cora.
yeah.
What? Or Crimson. You know what? Yeah, Crimson. He spoke up. I'm sorry, Cora. It's been revoked.
So, okay, I apologize, Corey. The only reason I wanted to start first is when I got God of War 2018, I was foolish enough to jump into it with a Gimme God of War, and even though I was able to
Me
get through
too.
it and still, right, even though I was able to get through it and still appreciate the game, with God of War Ragnarok, I wanted to actually just go a level below that, so that way I can actually enjoy what the game that had offers, and I'm truly impressed and glad that I went that route. So many different combinations of weapons you can use. Gotta turn that off real quick. So many different combinations of weapons you can use. A little restricted from 2018, but I just wanted to start by saying again, truly happy that I did not go Give Me God of War because this game with the combination of attacks, loadouts, all that fun stuff really added to how much you can actually characterize your play style. So that's just what I wanted to start with, and we can pass it back over to Core while I'm a little restricted from 2018, but
For combat, for me, to be honest with you, I like the Ragnarok's combat system better. I think for 2018, like it was good. Now, don't get me wrong. Like coming into the PlayStation 4 era with God of War was definitely like, wow, like this is really good. Especially going off from God of War 3, where a lot of people were complaining about the lack of combat
Variety.
variation because of yes.
Oh, sorry, I was saying variety. Yeah.
Yeah, variety, variety of weaponry that kind of got eliminated compared to what was in God of War 3. So I really think they actually did a lot better with like the shield. Like they were able to you were able to utilize it in different combat situations. Like for me, like if I blocked or parried really well, I got rewarded for it. And I just think for me the combat was better, and maybe it was because I didn't play it on Giving Me God of War on the first game or this one. But honestly, I think the combat was really refined, really sharpened. I felt like the Blades of Chaos was smoother, the axe felt heavier. The We're doing spoilers, so the spear felt like a spear when I was using it. So I can't really. For me, the combat did what it needed to do for a 2022 game.
And to go off of that too, um, to add on to it from like the history of the back games, real quick. I didn't. I was watching a random video of like the history. I was just watching it from the side, right? and then on YouTube. And then what I did notice is in one of the games, which I believe it's the Ghost of Sparta, I think uh, Kratos was running around with a spear in one of the older games. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I unfortunately don't.
Yeah, I did not play any of Ghost of Sparta, but I do believe I've seen gameplay of it.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't play it, but I like I said, I remember him like that really far away over the head angle they do in the old God of Wars. I remember seeing him in like one of the videos briefly running around with the spear, which
Mm?
was really cool. So like if you played all of the games through all the way, as we didn't, a lot of us, but if you did, you would have caught on to that, and that moment right there in the game involving the spear would have been that much more impactful as it was in 2018 when you got the Blades of Chaos.
Mm.
There was also when he used his Spartan ability and he would come down with the Spartan shields
The
and
magic
do his little
abilities. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes. Sorry if that's off topic.
Oh
I
no,
just
no, no, no,
it's
no,
it's
no.
a
but
cool
No, you
little
good.
God
You
of War
good.
is the topic, and this is on topic.
yes, and
Sure.
it's a cool little niche thing to pull from the past. Like it's cool that they reached even that far to pull something from the past. So really cool.
Yep. Dom, did you say your piece on gameplay, or Crimson? If you wanted to expand more, because like I said, this is the gameplay section. So if you want to speak more on combat, unless you guys want to combat, then we just break it down further. You just go all in on the gameplay,
I can continue with more on combat. So
Please
what I
remind
or
appreciate
us of
just
other things too. Remind us of other things on the list too, so we
yeah.
can kind
So
of hit other things other than just combat.
yeah. So one more time, game. This is the gameplay section, so that can discuss the combat, the enemy variety, the puzzles, the level design, and how you traverse the levels, as well as the loadout system. So your skills, your armor, the Idrisil amulet. You just
all
all
those
about
different
yeah,
stats.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that, all that.
So mainly speaking for myself, I which weapon did I really? I found myself really sticking to my axe. It was definitely one of the heavier hitters of the group. And then I had to remind myself, oh, I do have the Blades of Chaos. So once I started to utilize those, it did start to expand on getting what Santa Monica was trying to go. You got your axe, you got the spear, you got the Blades of Chaos. So as I started to remind myself, I got me a nice, really good loadout going, which was the axe and combo. You can remind me of this, but it's the light runic attack where you throw it and it just hits them multiple times.
The auto
And
targeting one,
yes, the auto target one. I really love doing that one. Someone can pull up the list somewhere. You can like Google
the exact name of the skills.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you played it, you know what I'm talking about. I love to just flick that on, target it out, get the axe throwing. Then I take the spear with the heavy attack where he rains down the spears, throw that, and then run up with the blades of chaos and use the wrath of the furies and just the amount of damage you could do with that combo set alone. And what I also appreciate about the spear was that you could unlock the ability that with using the L1 triangle move, it'll give you a blessed cooldown. So in the previous 2018 version, I was a pretty heavy runic and cooldown character. And one of my gripes that I did have with the combat system is that they took away the amount of slots and the stones that you can place into your armor pieces.
Well,
So I do feel like that limited me a bit more of how I could kind of space out my playstyle. Because in 2018, I still want to go back and platinum that game. I'm currently in the workshop. Oliver's
yeah,
workshop.
workshop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in his workshop. So I'm really changing and playing depending on who I come across in terms of what enemies I come across. There's certain enemies that I just want to throw out all my runic attacks and emphasize to get my runic attacks up, and then there's other enemies where it's like, all right, I just need to take it slow, take as much damage as I can. And in the new 2022 Ragnarok version, a little bit more limited. I've been stuck with Lunda's armor for the most of the game, so I was a little bit disappointed with that. But again, this showed me how much emphasis and just how well they put together the combat system for the game as a whole. Going back to 2018. So again, a part of me started to regret like, dang, there are so many different combos, so many different runic combos, so many different battle approaches I can do in God of War 2018. But instead, I'm kind of in the survival mode because I'm in this give me God of War mode. So I'm not really
Mm.
allowing myself to branch out and do different type of combinations and experiment with different types of work. So leading into 2022, I've been even more excited to pick the game up and just platinum it so I could just experiment more with different weapons. So that's just what I have for the combat section, and
Okay.
pass it on to someone else.
Yeah, so just real quick, since this can go on for a long time, I'm gonna break it down to combat. Then once everyone say their piece on combat, go to the enemy variety, etc. So we kind of get different voices in.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So Dom, how about you?
Yeah, so my piece on it was I absolutely loved the combat in the new one, and it continuously got better and better. And like Mariah, like Cora said earlier, so like she said earlier, having it, what was the word she used?
Variety,
Rewarded.
rewarding.
It rewarded you. Yes. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's like I know, right? But now there's like so like I don't know if you noticed, but if you throw your spear like 20 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll reward you and say, okay, since you use this ability this many times, that's when you can choose how do you want it to benefit you now. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah, the more you
So-
use a skill, you kind of level up that skill with like the
Exactly.
blades of
And then
chaos. You
I'll
can.
Yeah.
And then you could put stun or damage, or more like defense
Mhm.
after using that ability.
Yep,
So
I did forget to mention that part because it did change how I just changed my next battle too. So thanks for bringing it back up.
yeah, for sure. So it rewarded you for how you played. As Crimson said, I depending on the battles, right? If there was a boss battle, I used everything. Uh, Everything depending on the situation or depending on what was most effective at that time. Um, I used the axe for main source of damage, blades of chaos for crowd control, and then I used the spear for range and also a kind of a blend of both. Kind of a blend of both, depending on what your runic abilities are and stuff like that. So, long story short, man, they improved on everything I wanted them to improve on, and in the combat system, and they did an excellent job of it. It was super smooth. When you're incorporating with the platforming, right? If you're swinging across somewhere, you can come and slam on the ground. If you're climbing up a wall, you'll do a spin and knock someone off their feet. Or if you're jumping down, you can if you're jumping down instead of across, you'll ground pound on them too. Depending on what weapons you got out. It's pretty amazing actually when I look back on it.
All right, Cora, what you think?
I already said my piece about combat. I was gonna jump to the enemy variety
Oh,
now.
well, I want to say my piece about combat. So, I'm with Crimson. We both made the foolish mistake of playing God of War 2018 on our first and only playthrough at Give Me God of War because it said Give Me God of War. And I'm like, this is God of War, so why not? Regret. Beat it, but still regret. Even the Valkyries brag a little bit. So, but playing 2022 and really being able to utilize the full set of weapons that you have, the combat is good. One of my favorite combat games is definitely Devil May Cry 5, and moving over to God of War Ragnarok, just being able to keep that flow and that feel of like, yes, this is good. You pull out that perfect combo, you able to get the enemies round up the way you want to, and you just get into that proper flow. It just feels really good. Now I will say I did get spoiled later into the game when I got Luna's armor set, and I was just pretty much stuck to hand because of the ability on that. But I found myself, before I got that, I found myself using the blades of chaos the most. Like, for whatever reason, when I use drop near spear, not that it's bad, it's just I'm just not too fond of using it personally, but being able to siphon elements from the enemies is pretty useful. With the Leviathan Axe, of course, with the ice abilities, being able to slow down the enemies, the precision throws. I found myself less using the ranged attacks since I can actually go in on enemies and not feel like getting slapped one time and dying. So, but overall, I definitely enjoyed it. One of the disappointments I personally had, though, is that I kind of wish the hand-to-hand was expanded a bit more in terms of the combos that you can do with your bare fist. Every other weapon kind of got a skill tree to it, but not so much for your hand-to-hand. Your rage skill, specifically Fury, I still kind of feel that was very lacking in terms of just expanding on your moveset with it. And while we did get the Wrath ability as well as the Valor, I still was kind of disappointed with how they handled rage. I found myself using Valor like pretty much all the time, because the issue, and maybe it's just a difficulty thing as well as leveling, etc., and maybe someone's put like a proper rage build together, but when I'm using Fury, I just feel like I'm just welling on enemies and barely doing any damage. So I was just like, I'm just use Valor to stick to my hand to hand or my blades and Leviathan drop near. But in agreement with you guys, the combat in this game is very good. And the more I play it, I kind of wish they probably do, but I kind of wish they just had like an arena dedicated to how long you can last, kind of like Bloody Palace and Devil May Cry. Granted, there's an end to that one, but I just want to hop in, just fight. I know there's the practice arena, but it's not the same. I just want like tier system and just fight. So yeah,
I still need to beat the rest of the game because as Kamo said, I beat the game Friday. So I haven't really explored most of what the game has to offer. I did do the training area in the Elden Raven dimension, in the realm for Odin's Ravens. So I did a little bit of training there, but I would hope that in most of the time they would have the challenges back again. So
there are, so you can run those back to back. I just, like I said, I kind of would like a arena style, horde style, wave based, just constantly keep going at it. And the last thing I kind of want to say is that being able to, I kind of wish there was a bit more, what's that word I'm looking for? A way to style on swapping weapons, like leading into a combo would be kind of cool. It's like if you're using barehanded skills, like you're punching enemies and then you unlock the skill with the axe where you press L1, R1, you transition directly into the axe as you're attacking. So I kind of wish there was a more thing to where I'm like welling on enemies with the Leviathan axe and there's a really cool combo leading into the blades and leading to drop near, which would be cool. But that's just like no major hit towards the games. Is something I would have liked to have seen some type of proper flow into swapping weapons. But overall, the last thing is like it's a really good combat system. The runic abilities are amazing. Kind of sucks that some of them were brought over for 2018, but that's sequels for you. They still had their weight and used to it, and the leveling system was pretty streamlined with the upgrade trees for your weapons and the introduction for the shields. No one spoke about the shields, so I want to talk about that real quick. Was pretty useful. I personally found myself using the parry shield. I can't remember the name of it specifically. And after post game, I kind of went towards the tower block shield. But just having more variety in your shields is kind of cool. And yeah, anybody else got something about combat? And yeah, Cora's gone. It's like Christopher Judge number 2. No, I'm
joking. So real quick, I had a few things to say. So your idea of transitioning when you're in combat, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be really cool if you make a whole design for it. But you did mention that you kind of had that gap closed with the L1 R1 to like when you're running barehanded, you'll switch into it, you know?
Yeah.
Right. I think you got it for the other weapons. I don't know.
I'll have to check because I don't think there is one for them, but I'll definitely have to check again.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you just quickly call it back and do a hit.
How you can run and charge up your axe for
get the frost on it.
So this is what I was gonna say. So I was gonna say two things. One, based off everything you said, it's how you fight, how you specifically as the player
utilize everything.
Your tools, yes, for combat. Mariah, I already blew it. Whatever. She's my wife.
She's back.
Mariah does it differently. So her fighting style is I'm just like gonna blazer cast you until I have to use something else, right? For me, I'm looking to use everything, and I do. I'm like, oh man, I have tools for anything and everything. Let me just use that. So, and so you don't have the full blown like animations and transitions to use different weapons, right? But in between you having, that's why I think you can juggle so much, right?
Yeah.
So if you hold R2 with so what I was doing was like double tapping R2 to fling someone in the air, right? I'll fling someone in the air, and while I do that, I'll pull the Blaze of Chaos out. After I fling them in the air with the axe, I'll grab them and whip them back down on the ground to where they bounce up again. If I
keep the air juggle going.
Exactly. And then prior to that, or after that, I'll pull out my Dropner Spear, and if you hold R1, he has an ability where you stab him,
yeah.
He pokes down and leaves it in them, right? So I would do that for the maximum amount of times, and then I would back up if they're a tough enemy and hold triangle to bang my Dropner Spear on the ground and stun him, and then I can go back in there with whatever weapon I desire. So like, and then you can break you can kind of get a mini stun like in there to continue a combo. if you do L1 triangle,
Hmm.
because you're activating the potential of your weapon at that point.
Yeah.
So that's how I used it, bro. Like, and I was it was amazing. Like, it's totally fine for me to
Oh, you
have
know,
it.
it's I'm not saying it's bad without it. It's one of those nice to have if they included it type of thing. So I'm not saying like it's a miss that it's not there, but it'd been nice to have seen, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
But no, there's so much to I kind of want to keep it not too long with the combat, but there's so much like you said with the grapples, with the Blaze of Chaos, the freezing abilities, you can call back the axe if you call it right, and it smacks the enemy in the back. Like there's so much to this game, so much depth that it is up to the players on how you learn to play. It's just I reference DMC, like if you find people who are really skilled at Devil May Cry, they could bust out crazy combos, and then there's me doing something but not the best in the game, but I'm still enjoying what I'm able to do. Like that's how you know there's a good combat system.
It's all about what I personally loved about this game, and really about any hack and slash game, and just gaming in general, is going in with an idea, executing the idea, and it actually works out the way you wanted it to. You know, so there would be a boss fight I would be, and I was like, okay, this guy's whooping my butt, right? So I'm going to hit him with the light runic attack to get the axe hitting him. I'm going to throw my spears over him, and while the spears are coming down, the axe is hitting him. I'm going to run up, get some melee hits in. Once he's poisoned, I'm going to do a return axe with the L1 R1, get a few more hits in, and then use my heavy runic attack to freeze him a little bit more. And then all the while, I would swap back over to my Blaze of Chaos and then space out whenever it's safe for me to use my runic attacks. So if it was I love the Wrath of the Furies, just incredible damage output, and another good combination too was using Freya's poison ability to weaken them even further. So when you have that on top of each other, they just gave you so many different opportunities of like, if you play your cards right, you piece this all together right, you're going to turn a strong enemy into a pretty weak enemy pretty quickly. Drop their spear, I actually when it first came out using drop the spear, it was a little bit more distracting than anything. I was dying a lot more trying to actually utilize it, so I didn't really like it that much until I started to unlock more abilities. And as Combo said, with the ability to dash with X and then follow with a melee attack, once you start doing that, you can do a sprint with the drop near spear, and you sprint and you hit them with it. You'll leave a spear inside them as well. I do wish they had stuff like that in the melee. I know I'm bouncing a little bit, but that is one of the things I wish they had kept, was that at least some type of skill tree. I don't even care if it was like 4 points for your bare fisted. So that way it just made it flow a little bit easier. Sprinting and doing a dash attack was fine, but doing a dash with the X button into a melee attack flowed a little bit more than constantly having to click sprint, click sprint, click sprint. So that's what I have for the combat.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to hear me still?
Yeah, we hear you.
Now we are.
I
Yeah.
don't know how you just like.
She's so polite. Sat there and waited.
Yeah, hear me yet? No. So if no one's got like, there's so much to cover with combat, but if you guys want to head over to the enemy
We didn't
variety,
even get
because I feel like we're gonna be
Where's the
stuck on the
first one?
It's
story.
like ask me like a week later once I've actually put in more time for the side quests and got more.
Yeah,
abilities on
I feel like the main story is right where we're gonna spend a lot of time. So blitz through it, enemy variety. Take as long as you want, but
I could blitz through this, but okay, I have I guess technically there's three different enemies. There's like the minor, like the minor enemies that you're fighting,
yeah,
and like the elves
like
or
the Ironheart Riders, Archers.
yeah, but then the middle.
the
armies
majors.
that are just-
I'm speaking Destiny
like the
terms
ones
now.
that yeah, exactly. And then like the big major.
The ultras.
Spoilers. Like since we're doing spoilers, like Thor, Odin, Freya, like those bosses. Like I found them kind of falling in those three different categories. To be honest with you, and I was rewatching God of War 2018, and for some reason, outside of the very first Thor fight, I didn't feel the awesomeness of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
You two live in the same house.
That's what that was what I was about to say.
You got no laptop. Messing up. So.
Okay,
You had went out for a bit there, Cora.
but continue.
Oh,
You're good.
But basically, for me, the Thor fight, the very first Thor fight, was the best of Ragnarok for the game. Like for me, Odin, it was okay, but it just felt like he was throwing a bunch of elements at me, and
Yeah,
I
that's
just had to-
he's a
I
master.
just had to hit him. Second Thor fight, I mean, it was cool, but the scale of the battle just shrunk.
Oh
Like the
yeah.
very first one, I'm getting thrown across Midgard. Like that was really cool, and we made frozen lightning when we struck each other. Like I was thinking they were going to do something as epic as that,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
just felt like I didn't get that. And like even Boulder was like not doing
Yeah.
anything too crazy, and I felt like I would be more excited to fight him again. Heimdall was okay, but he wasn't as good as Boulder still.
Yes,
The
sir.
Like
Boulder, I would agree with you. The Boulder final fight in God of War, hell, even the first one when you first meet him and he throws that, they throw their couple punches and they start the initial fight. That and the final fight, I do feel like it just carried more weight than what was
right,
compared to the rest of Ragnarok.
right, and I felt like Freya had a potential of being up there with Thor when it came to fighting her. I really felt like, and this may go into the plot a little bit more, but I'm just talking about her as a boss. I really felt like I should be fighting another Valkyrie Queen level with her, and I felt like they should have utilized that a little bit more with her. So she really should have been like top three most difficult boss fights, in my opinion, honestly. And I don't know why they didn't do that, but I feel like that's kind of going more into the plot itself. But to me, the Wars fight, very first one, excellent, best fight of the game, hands down. The rest, meh. It had kind of cool choreography, but eh.
Yes, sir.
So
Are you happy that we didn't have to fight blue troll, red troll, green troll,
my
purple troll?
God, I was thinking that because people were talking about how like they felt like in the last game, like it was just like the same one, except it was literally like you said, a different color. But I felt like it was the same thing here, except you just gave them a bigger health bar.
Yeah, I
So
think
Yeah.
that they used them more
Yeah.
sparingly this time around. Like when you first
yeah,
find him in Svartalheim, I believe, when he shows up, Chris like, I'm not having this. He just insta kills him. But you do find one in Midgard later on. Like that was funny. But yeah,
but you still fought the dragons. Like you still fought you had like those random sprinkling of enemies that just had a bigger health bar than the rest of the enemies, and I felt like they did better with the enemies that, long distance. There was a lot of long distant enemies, and it was getting on my nerves a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I kind
I
of
agree
wanted
with
a
you there.
more like close up and personal enemies. Like the wolves were cool, like they were cool in the last game, but I kind of wanted more close up and personal enemies um than I got. Like they were just like spitting poison at me, throwing fire at me. I'm like, man, come up here and grab like that. Like throw me some hands, like quit just throwing poison at me over and over. So, to me, there was a little bit more long distance based enemy varieties that I would have wanted personally. So,
Mhm.
Mm.
I like that there was human based enemies because you can cut them in half. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know
That.
why that entertained me so much, but it
Well,
did.
speaking of
video
that,
games make
I feel like this is probably the most brutal that we've seen this man executing people. I feel like a lot of his executions in the game when they were stunned just had so much weight. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was
Mm-hmm.
personal with it. You
fun.
you stab somebody with your the blades of chaos. He
Yep.
slice them in half, and then
Exactly.
the drop in your spear when he twists and he just detaches your entire body. I'm just like, yo, what the heck,
Hey,
Kratos?
he's Kratos. He's like, I'm not gonna fight unless I had to, but when I do, I'm gonna make it sure.
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly, exactly.
Oh
I
man,
loved it.
that was
But
good.
I definitely
Um.
feel like this enemy, the I just feel like Ragnarok didn't give me that satisfying win. Like I didn't get a satisfying win at the end of all this
The
that I did.
scale
Like
of the
yeah,
enemies
like
for Ragnarok, yeah.
well,
We
like
could say the story for later. We're still on enemies.
yeah, I'm trying to stay on enemies. I just felt like the enemy end game, I didn't get it. I didn't get the like fuck yeah, like I didn't get that.
No,
I
I
disagree with
get
you
you. I
there.
get you.
The final boss, the cream, like Boulder, he was the final boss throughout the entire 2018. That dude just kept popping up, being a pain in our asses. Can I cuss? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Oh,
No,
we're
just
playing a rated
Yeah,
M game.
okay. Just don't,
It's-
we're not getting monetized yet, but I don't want it to be demonetized in the future. But I feel like the weight with Boulder and like the build up to his boss battle, and even how it started when he captured Atreus, and it's just well, no, that's when they went to hell for the very first time. But even the very first fight, I'm all over the place. The last fight just has so much build up and so much weight. It was you're here. Freya summoning this. She's bringing the giant back to life. She's throwing her own little problems into the mix, and then you're here and you're here. And then
Jormungandr
again with
pops up.
yeah, and then with Ragnarok, the final fight, with Odin and with Thor, it was just so simple.
Contained. It was more
Yeah, it was
contained.
very contained. Yeah, it's just there was so much that was supposed to be going on, and I will say this much: when I first picked up the game, I was thinking this is Ragnarok, and I wanted to go back to God of War 3 when Darian, Combo Darren, whatever, when Combo said that God of War 3 had so much like you're bringing the destruction of Olympus. It had that weight. It carried that weight from the beginning all the way to the
Yeah.
end. With
Yeah.
God of War Ragnarok, yeah, Freya could jump into the fight, and that popped off the way it did. But and then Thor showed up, but I didn't feel like even during the final boss, this was Ragnarok. It just did not feel that way.
That's fair. That's fair. Mr. Dom, what about you with the enemy variety? If you want to take the same approach with the bosses or just the overall variety of enemies across the realms?
I
Yeah, we
will.
didn't.
I will have to. I was just listening because I disagree actually. I thought the variety was dope. And I think there was more than three like types of categorizing. Like you had your obviously your base enemies as like the melees and then the archers, right? But then you did have like in between that you did have some that were a little bit tougher than that, right? That did the same thing. Then you had another layer of like the wolverines or whatever, right?
hmm
Then above the wolverines, you had like the mini bosses. You know what I mean?
Like the
And like the
ogres?
huntress
Yeah,
chicks,
the huntress.
the
Yeah.
huntress chicks. I loved fighting them. It was because it was different. It was hard, and I was like, damn, she's kicking my cheeks if I'm not careful. You
Literally
know what I
stomping
mean?
on you.
But like the game was more challenging overall too, in my opinion. Which because of the variety of enemies and the
Diversity.
amount of enemies,
hmm
and it it was I loved it. I loved the variety. I thought there was a good variety, and I loved the pace of it. Um, and I liked. Uh, I would say with the bosses too. I mean, I loved all the boss fights, and don't get me wrong. Like there was a lot of they could have X Y Z here and there, right? But if they did that, we would have had to wait another 5 years. Like we waited 5 years for 2018 to come out. We only waited how many on this one?
3,
Uh,
4?
4.
2018, four ish, three and a half,
4?
four ish.
I just round up to
Yeah.
4.
Fours.
So we'll round up to four. So another year of um, game development, and we have 2018. But at the same time, with what they did, they just built on what they had, and I thought they did an excellent job of it. To be honest with you, so I understand where you guys are coming from with that, but and with Balder and everything like that, and I love that too. But if you think about it, he was like one of like four, not even four,
Major
but like
bosses.
yeah, because like the trolls were considered bosses, but those weren't bosses. They were boss fights, but they weren't
There are
bosses.
many bosses.
Yeah,
Um,
there are many bosses, so there's a lot more variety of that in this one too.
hmm
So
And
I'll go ahead, Dom.
I was gonna say, and you still get a taste of that in this one in Ragnarok. You still
hmm
fight the trolls, which is fun. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really give a direct answer like the enemy variety. I personally also agree with you, Dom. I liked the enemy. If we're not talking about the bosses and the mini bosses, I enjoyed it. The Einhar captain, the brutes, especially the
Yes,
captain with
yes,
the
the
with this.
travelers.
Yeah,
Like
with the I actually like the
Those
design.
executions are like.
I
Yeah.
know, dude.
Um, so like the Einhard captain, he was a pain in the ass to fight, and it's a pain being the Bifrost. Like fight those people with Bifrost is so
Right.
annoying. And the worst one was the archers. They hit so hard and they did so much damage. And you got the Bifrost. So while she's shooting you from the outside, you get hit with Bifrost. You got a homie on the right hand side, the brute that's clanging his fists together, and now you hit with some more Bifrost, and most of your health is gone. Like the amount of times that I jumped to a fight, got hit once or twice from Bifrost, and half my health was gone. I was like, well, that was fun. The wyverns were definitely annoying, and I will say this much too, because I kind of get the ball rolling here. They did a great job with giving you enough traps, enough enemies to keep you aware. The wyverns, as I played, I started to really make note to myself who was my top priority and who I can kind of dance around, because if I didn't kill that person in the background, they're gonna whoop my butt because everybody else is gonna come in. So when you get to Suter and you start Ragnarok, he's in there, in the hyperbolic time chamber doing his shit and whatnot. And you come out, and the Ironheart people come down, and you got the Wyvern. The amount of times I went back and forth and got whooped, I kept telling myself, I gotta kill this wyvern first. I gotta kill this wyvern first because I could be in the background. I can kill all the Ironheart foot soldiers, but that raining of lightning just takes so much damage, and then I gotta deal with the ranger as well, and so on and so forth. So they definitely had enough character variety, and they
Mm-hmm.
pieced it together so where they force you to be on your toes. They
Yeah.
force you. You got people from the outside shooting at you. You got a dragon bringing out lightning that tracks you. You got this
Mm-hmm.
dude running up with Bifrost at the bottom. Then you got this other person throwing fire at you. And the last thing, when I was training in the Odin Ravens area, that's what I appreciate about it. That they give you that chance to fight different type of enemies, so you can start to develop a battle tactic. I was primarily practicing for the first time after I beat the game fighting the Draugr, and I'm coming in with people with the foot soldiers. You got the sword and shield attacking me. Then you got the guys with the dual blades, and then on the outside I got to deal with the flame orb just throwing it at me. I started to realize how bad projectile enemy based were. Those most of the time should have been my top priorities because they hit so hard. So I was appreciative that they gave us an opportunity to really start learning our character. So if we run into moments like that, like if they had a version of the workshop, I've trained to be able to fight those. And I'm happy that they dumbed down the witches. I personally feel like they made them easier. It could be because I'm not playing on Give Me God of War, but they're definitely not as bad as they used to be.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm definitely in agreement with you guys when it comes to the enemy variety. The only one thing I just have to point this out that was like weird to me was when you were in Svartalheim and you're fighting those really, really small enemies. I was like,
Oh my
what is it? It's not even that they were like, yeah, I was like, bro,
They were
what
just
are we?
annoying.
Yeah, no, it was just weird. Like, I'm the freaking God of War fighting ants.
Point where I would like try to collect like treasure or something and it wouldn't let me, and that means that enemies are nearby. And when I'm like, what is nearby? And it's the little things crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm
So,
like,
but
oh my gosh.
the enemy variety was definitely there. It's nice to see that they weren't too reliant on the trolls from the first game, because the amount of trolls that popped up, and then I'm trying to recall back when you get to Midgar and the original one, and there's like 2 trolls in the room, the tree, wherever location it was. So I'm just like, bro, we fought trolls and we gotta fight 2 trolls at the same time, but now they're like firing and ice. But in this one, there was a lot more variety in the mini bosses, as well as the smaller enemies that you fight, the human enemies you fight in Midgar, the angry heart that you fight, and their Bifrost abilities. I can't remember their name, the Draxus, I think, the little lizards that were in the water with electricity, and like I'm trying to think, like, aside from those small guys, there's no enemy that I like hated for like something negative. Like, yeah, you'll have that enemy you hate because they kicking your ass a lot, but in terms of just like the way they were designed, they were all good. Fighting.
A lot of enemies when you break it down. Actually,
Yeah, like there's so much, and again, that's why like I would love to have just a pure arena where you start fighting off the Draugr, and then you build up fighting more complex, and then you mix them together. Like I would a horde mode or something that would be so good.
Progressively gets harder and harder.
Yeah, the Berserkers as a replacement of the Valkyries, they're good. They're all right. There's really just one fight with the Berserkers that actually really did piss me off because of the mechanic. And when you're fighting 2 of them, that was the worst one when it came to it. But overall, I definitely enjoyed it. The different elements that you had to pay attention to, the Bifrost was annoying when I got smacked with it and my health bar just disappeared. Expanding on previous enemy factions, fighting the light elves in this one, and what they had like the dual wielding one, and they had the weave samurai, the samurai one. Yeah, so
Boy, that samurai, that guy, I made it to Odin's prison. That dude whooped my butt.
yeah, this having you had the teleporters too, where I had that infamous glitch where I teleported to the ceiling. That was funny. But no, I definitely enjoyed it, and the introduction of what was it? They kind of introduced the flame shields that enemies had. I think it started off with like I can't remember the names, but it's like this moose type enemy that you fight. They had different elements for that one, and then they introduced. Yeah, then they introduced that some of them had like flame shields, so now you have to use your Leviathan axe. And I don't think that was a thing in the previous game. I know there were some enemies that were like resistant to like your axe. I think like ice joggers, you're not using your axe against them, but in this one they specifically had like elemental shields that they had above their health bars. Yeah. And that was a nice introduction to have as well, because it kind of did start to force you to use certain weapons and not in a negative way. The worst game I can reference is like DMC, that Devil May Cry that wasn't Devil May Cry, where they try to introduce something like that to where you had to use your angel weapons or your demon weapons, and it broke the flow if you're doing it wrong. And they did it right in this game to where like, yeah, I'm using the wrong weapon, but it's not messing up the flow of combat because I'm using the wrong one. I just swapped to the right one. So yeah, overall, I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed the boss fights. I enjoyed the variety in bosses this time around. And the only, again, what's up?
Okay, so while we're talking about enemies, favorite execution. I think I know everybody else's favorite execution, but I'm gonna let you guys go first.
Mine is definitely the Traveler. I'm sorry, like
Wolf's execution.
no.
Getting pulled from jaw to the stomach. Like,
Oh no, that's brutal, but it's the clean of the cleave when he goes in to swing on it. I'm just like, bro, it's so close.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it's like, yeah,
This is the way in
yeah. And the I'm trying to think. It's the mother enemy that has like the little small ones that you have to deal with, and he'll just like this goes stabbing into him. And there's another one. I think I don't know if he finished those the two ways, but there's one he'll stab him, then he'll slice their chest open and finish them off with the blaze of chaos with the explosion. So it's a really good.
Oh yeah,
It was
that was cool.
it was definitely the Wolvers for me, because what I really appreciate about that is like, this is a man that can chuck boulders like it's nothing, and he's ripping you from jaw to waistline. Come on.
I just find it hilarious how he kind of like holds him a little bit, like, you okay, buddy? And then he throws him to the side.
I have to say though, mine honestly, like the goriest and like dopest one, I think was the Wolvers one. The one you're talking about, the like cleanliness of the Traveler was amazing.
Mhm.
But I really loved taking out the King's dudes. What are they?
The Berserkers.
It was super quick, but it was clean. He like hits you one side to loosen that neck up, hits you on the other side, and then he says, "Oh no!" Then he boops you in the chin, bro, and then spins all the way around, just cuts your fucking head off.
Mhm.
It was just so clean to do.
I still love just the general human execution where homie kicks you into the air so hard that you're twisting, and he just cleaves you in half. Like,
Oh, I love that one too.
come on, man.
Yeah, dude, I love that one too, man.
Yeah, no. So mix these two together, the puzzles and the level design. How'd you guys feel about that? For me,
Easy to combine those.
yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I'll start. The puzzles were okay. I'll admit though, when traversing through the maps, I start to feel like I'm like, am I playing God of War or am I playing Uncharted right now? Like it at least during my initial impressions of playing it, I kind of felt as though I was dealing with too many puzzles at some point. In terms of levels, I think the one I was annoyed the most with was it Vanaheim? I think Freya's home realm, with the introduction of the hostile plant lives. I kind of, they didn't add anything worthwhile to the game, and they were just purely annoying, and not in a good way. Like, oh man, you better watch out. It's a hazard of the map. Like, nah, it's just annoying to either have to watch out for the exploding poisonous ones or the ones that you can't destroy until you find like the mother, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, like they didn't add anything into the game, and at some point, I think during Freya's quest, they kind of had it to where you had to find a puzzle to find the right part and destroy it, and now you're able to open this door. It's like, this isn't fun. I'm not. It's not. I'm like in a bad way. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun. But
I would say the environmental hazards that I actually did like was when the enemies would just randomly pop out of the ice and hit you. That was better than the flowers just blowing up. And like, the amount of times I got killed by those guys, I was like, okay, just pay attention, man.
So real quick, with I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Atomic Teal, if I pronounce it wrong, sorry. What were your guys' thoughts on the AI telling you the puzzles and how to solve them after a while?
I am actually really happy that Atomic had mentioned that, because I think you and I was talking at that point. We had said I had mentioned that it was a little annoying that I would be in in the arena for a bit, and then Mimir would be like, brother, maybe you can twist that so and so around a little bit. It's like, let me figure it out.
Like, all you gotta do is
this. Yeah, it's like,
and then
it's
you'll
like,
be done.
Right. I'm in the level, and I'm trying. Like, I love puzzle games. I personally like puzzle games. I like the Nornir chess. I like it just felt very rewarding when I found that last piece when we were back at Freya's homeland, and there was a rune hiding behind the flat. It was on a mountain, and it was behind those red plants that you had to burn out, and it blended in with the environment. And I was just running all over the place trying to find this last rune. And when I finally found it, I felt very accomplished. But a lot of the moments where you're just trying to look, and like 5 seconds in, Freya's like, I think you can freeze that chart over there. I'm like, give me like 30 minutes, please, to try to find it
30
myself.
minutes or accessibility option to turn off. I can agree. I'm back and forth. Like the old man in me kind of appreciates it, but the gamer in me also wants them to have that option to where you don't hear it. Because after a while, like
You could turn it off. They actually said you could turn it off.
is it? I mean, if you can, because a lot of people were
Yeah.
upset about it, so I'm not sure if that is in the menus, but
One of those, like, do you naturally explore the menu to turn off hints? Like,
yeah, I get you. So
Exactly.
yeah, in
My
that
question is,
regards,
my
I
question
would
is,
say
Cor,
yes.
is it the hint where like it actually has an exclamation point pop up and it points you that direction, or is it just, like,
it's in
really straight
dialogue.
down?
Like they'll say something.
dialogue.
Yeah, it's the dialogue that they'll include into. But going back to the level design and the puzzles again, there were moments where later when you're in hell and you're fighting the dog. I can't remember the one, but the one that can rip through tears. And there was just like some puzzle that you had to solve. We had to pull the chain down, use the axe, blah blah blah. At some point, I kind of felt like there were too many to where they were starting to get introduced. Like you just fought the boss. Here's another puzzle to get through this door. And in some sections, I kind of just felt like you guys can just have me walk through the door. We're done. I know they had some of these level puzzles just to allow you to dump exposition. So I understand why they were there. But at some point, I did feel like, again, this is God of War, and the main thing is the combat that you really want to get into. And when I feel like I'm spending too much time solving puzzles in a game that really is focused on combat, that's when you start to lose me. So I can't like speak to specific points, but what I'm basically getting is that as I was playing, I do recall eventually having that feeling like, okay, now we're doing a little too much climbing, a little too much puzzle solving, and not enough to like ruin the overall experience, but enough to be like, this is kind of getting tiresome now. So, but I will say the last thing is the fun light elf section where you're bouncing the axe across the crystals. That was kind of fun. That was fun.
It was a unique puzzle way of doing that. Like, I got kind of tired of like throwing the axe through those little
Oh no,
red
no.
thingies that
The
you get
red
right and you
thingies?
don't get it right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know the little red thingies? Like, I didn't like those.
Yeah,
Like,
you
Yeah,
got
when
red
the dark elves
Yeah.
goop, the dark
yeah,
elf
like,
goop, and you have to.
it's like, who even like made this a form of combination? Like,
I
put
didn't
this
mind
here,
it.
put the goop in this order. If the goop gets hit right, then along with that one,
Jeffrey, you
go.
gotta line them up properly.
I get what you're saying. How it could be annoying. I liked it. And sorry, whose turn was it?
Oh, I think Mariah had jumped in on that one. So, yeah. But overall, at least my overall point.
I just jumped in on Darian.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop being Christopher Judge. I'm sorry, I'm gonna reference him as much as possible. But overall, like
We're talking
I
about God of War, so we have to.
I did enjoy, like, the level design weren't terrible, but at some points it did start to feel like there was too much of a puzzle to deal with. And the last thing I gotta say, for me personally, I didn't like the map. Like the map, I felt like it wasn't useful with anything.
Like a game menu.
Yeah, like you're trying to follow the compass and I'm heading in the right direction and it just starts to go all the way to the right. I'm just like, is it in front of me? Is it beside me? The map is telling me straight ahead. So
I
it
had that a little bit too, and it did throw me off at times. But at the same time, I just had to like see if you were losing, if it was ticking down,
mhm.
then you were going the right way.
Yeah. And
Sometimes it was ticking down. And it was like, no,
the last
no, it's not.
the last thing, so I can get off on my petty level and people can call me out for being ultra petty. Jumping off of some cliffs and Kratos having a grapple shot down, I'm just like, bro, you got tossed through the sky. Why you need the grapple shot down? Or it's like the smallest hop he has to do it sometimes, and then he has to hook shot back up. And I was just like, okay, we
Yeah.
can't.
I could see that. It's kind of like taking away a bit of the immersion of the story. Like when you're playing as Atreus with Thor, and this dude is just throwing his hammer up there and just flying up there. I'm like, Kratos, boy, you should be able to do the same thing technically, right? Like probably not fly, but you can launch that sword into the wall and just get us up there because this is starting to take too long, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, overall, it was okay. Could have been better, but it was okay. Cora, or who want to go next? I know you guys fight for it.
She can go next. You can go next.
I was actually going to mention that I kind of wish there was a better fast travel system. Actually,
Agreed.
sometimes like I love that it was a huge map wherever I usually went, but sometimes I was thinking like I literally had to go to the next gate, like closest gate, which could be so far away, and I had to go backwards, track backwards. Sometimes I don't quite remember how I got there because it's not a straight shot because it's not a true open world. So I have to stay on a certain path to get back. I can't just wrap around because I kind of was wishing that like maybe they could find a way like, hey, this will get you clear the enemies, blah 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 blah, but this will get you the closest gate. It won't let you go to other realms, but it'll let you go to whatever gate you have open within that realm. Because like just some moments I'm like, I need to go to this realm, and I have to go to a gate, and the closest gate is literally like 400 meters or however they're trying to measure it miles away,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to literally go back. And I just had that, especially when I was doing the side missions. I found myself having to do that.
Okay.
So level designs, I kind of feel like the same thing. The only thing when it comes to Kratos, I really wish they would like you
Oh no.
said like his jumping down. It is petty, but I really wish they were kind of a little bit more clear of like, okay, this dude is super strong. The path is blocked, bro. If you don't throw that boulder,
It's like I noticed you had to.
You have to have
that-
sequences like that
Yeah,
in
you got to
gaming.
for a
Yeah.
video game, but come
right,
on
but
now.
it's not like a skyscraper is in front blocking his way. Like I'm just like, bro, just throw it out the way. He's like, we have to go around. I'm like, it's a tree root. Just rip it out. Like, but that was just me. Other than that, I mean, the Midgard changed the most, I guess, because of the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but other comparing it to 2018, I was like, I'm not like the design isn't blowing me away from the previous game. If I had to be honest with you, like Kratos,
Agreed.
if anything, is just going through it slightly different. So
Okay.
that's all I have for it.
All right.
Dom,
Dom.
our God of War legend.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
So, what I was gonna say was,
I'm so glad he responded to that.
thank you, sir. But so
course.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys for the most part. I can see all of that too. I don't disagree either. I did like the fact of when I did like the fact of throwing your your laser cast to traverse. I like that more in the sense that I'm glad they didn't make us keep climbing all the time
mm-hmm.
because the climbing is so slow.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make it
Oh,
faster.
yeah.
So I am glad they replaced climbing with that. I will say that there were some climbing portions though where I was like, okay, I get it, but what it is like when a lot of times in the game when you do climb or have to go somewhere, it is to bring you to a whole different part of the map or into some side stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like everywhere you go in that game has purpose. Whether it be a treasure that you're like, oh damn, I could use this, or it's actually a side mission. That's and by the way, I completed the game 100% all the way through with everything. So
Ragnarok?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to
I
mention
mean, I
that.
haven't yet, so.
So the reason that's why my perspective might be so different is because I did everything in that game,
Mm-hmm.
and I could like for the first time in like years, I can actually say I know like the nooks and crannies in that game, and the level design was excellent. I did love how some of the surfaces and the maps were destructible, and they had secrets hidden in their destruction. um the puzzles like hitting the gongs to unlock the chests,
Mm-hmm.
I liked those a lot because it wasn't too complex, and you knew that the third gong, if you couldn't find it, or the third statue to break, you knew if you couldn't find it, it was somewhere near. It was never like, oh man, I'm never gonna find this thing because it might be
It's like,
off the dam all the way in the other first section. You know what I mean? No, it's
yeah.
all within like an area. You just got to use your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So I really did like that. It's just I like the mini brain teasers in this game to kind of just take me away a little bit, not so much so where I'm like, God, this is dreadful, you know?
Yeah, they
Like,
were challenging enough to where like you're not looking up secrets
right,
online. Yeah.
right. But I will say that too, though. I I could have figured out all this on my own if I would just search far and wide, you know,
Hmm.
or been more vigilant. So that was good. But I did look some stuff up, like the Olden Ravens, just because I got like 95% of them by myself. So I had like I think there's 48 you can get. I
Yeah,
felt
there's
like 30.
48.
I felt like 39 by myself. And I just the reason I didn't find them all was 'cause I stopped looking at a certain point.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, but I enjoyed all of that, to be honest with you. I mean, there was some like the plants. Yeah, I could do without them. I'll be totally honest with you.
100%. Yeah,
It's just
that
kind of like
was.
filler, I guess. You know, just something to be in the way to occupy your time a little bit, which I was not the biggest fan of either. I could do without them, but they actually didn't bother me too much. It was like, God damn plants. So let me just throw the damn axe at them, you know?
Yeah, and one thing I will say, since you're talking about 100% in the game, I do like having the checklist system to make it a lot easier to understand how much am I missing.
Exactly.
Like that's systems like that make me want to continue to play. Where instead of guessing how much I have left, if there's a waypoint, I'm more willing to go and find it. Whereas some other games, I'm kind of just like, eh.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
or at the very least, the way that they section it off. Because if you're looking at like the entirety of Midgar, if you hover over certain portions, it's gonna say, okay, in this area, this is how much you have
one
left.
order
In this
raven,
area,
Yeah.
one this,
yeah.
one that.
So
Yes.
it really made it easier for me to track my progress.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one huge thing, I thought they made a mistake. I thought I couldn't go back to a section and get a legendary chest. I was like, oh no, dude, this is ridiculous. Why would they do this? But I just overlooked it. But that's one huge thing they did in the game. Nothing that pertains to the story will stop you from 100%ing the game.
Hmm. That's the other reason why
That's a very important detail.
I was kind of curious as to why they would always say like every 5 seconds. That's like, brother, you don't have to continue the story anymore. We can like do side quests. Brother, you sure you want to go do it now? I kind of wonder why they kept trying to push you to do
I
side
could tell you.
content like that.
It's the ending, the
I could,
ending. It's
so
yeah.
Oh no, not yet, not yet. If I got to discover through side quests, I
No,
really
no,
want to
no, no.
see
I
that.
was, I was, yeah, no. There's that. It's probably a leveling system too. You want to make sure you prepare before you finish, but
that's
because
what
it's
it was
not,
too.
yeah, because it's not like other games where like when you beat the game, you can't go back. So other than that, they were just saying, hey, you sure you don't want to do some extra stuff before you go?
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
so it was
All
like
right.
it was like a hidden difficulty meter, and they're like, how Borderlands is like you got to beat this level for so and so instead of having it played out. There's like Lemire, you can just casually say
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So, Crimson, you got something to say? We're about an hour in, and we're still in the gameplay.
I'm just watching you fight
Get-
Thor here. I'm
and
just
get
like,
my
man,
ass
that
beat.
fight, yeah, that boss, yeah, you was getting your ass beat. I ain't gonna lie. Overall, the puzzles they didn't bother me too much. Like when you go to Svartalheim and I don't know the island, but there's a island in Svartalheim, and you have this lever that you can pull. It's a chain, and it'll bring the chain. What's the word I'm looking for? The way that you can diverse with the chain, and as you pull it up or down, you can jump across. And there's like 3 levels to it.
Mm-hmm.
At the very last level, there was a treasure chest. At the very top, there was a wall that you had to break through. So I didn't really mind moments like that. For me personally, it was only when I was up late at night and I was really tired that I started to get frustrated with the puzzle design. But I think that's just gonna happen when you're just mentally fatigued, right?
Mm-hmm. I think
I appreciate it.
just real quick, I think in that section, I think I know what you're talking about. It's one of the islands with the chimney on top. It's not chimney, but it's more
Yeah.
so the side content style isn't bad, but when it's in the main story and you have to do these puzzles, like I said, in the Helheim section where you're fighting the dog and you gotta do all these different puzzles to get through, and then once you beat the boss, it's another puzzle you gotta get through on this. Like, bro, can I just walk straight and finish the game, please?
Yeah,
That's
like
where I'm.
when you look at God of War, the original trilogy, that was their biggest thing was
Traversal
puzzles,
and puzzles, yeah.
yeah, and puzzles. Because man, I do not know my Greece mythology like I should. But in God of War 3, where you was in yeah Greece mythology,
Greek.
Greek, my Greek. Okay, guys, gosh, my Greek mythology. And all right, I'm gonna start talking like what's his name? Take the whole podcast like pulling Christopher Judge.
We're gonna keep doing this, aren't we?
But what was the level? And I should really know this. It was the level In the original trilogy, you was a cube, and what was that? You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
A cube? And you saying God of War 3?
God of War 3, and
I couldn't tell you, brother. Artemis, the gods. Which god are we talking about? Because
I will have to come back to it, but it was that was a part of the game in God of War 3 where it was like emphasized that this is the entirety of this game is a puzzle. But it was these big cube platforms that you had to fight on. Huge platforms, huge cube. Yeah, those. Right? Thank you. Yes, Archimedes, that one.
Oh yeah, then he had like a maze or something like that. I'm sorry, real quick, guys. If you saw in the footage where Thor throws the hammer, he calls it back and clunk you in the back of your head. That was funny. That was funny. And then when he kills you but brings you back, I was like, oh crap. I was like, did I fuck up?
We ain't done. I was like, this is cheating.
You know what's crazy? Right, I never got the animation. I just seen it. Because I never died to him. That shit was
that one right there is that's a mandatory death. It's a quick time. Yeah.
I don't know how Dom didn't get that.
Dude, I really don't remember that.
He 100% the game, y'all. He's the God of War legend.
He was so good at the game. The game didn't even let him get the fourth wall break.
Hey, Thor was like, "Hey man, I'm doing."
All right. Anyway, back on topic.
So
I think she dropped out. No, she's here.
If you look at the original trilogy,
there were puzzles. Yeah.
I feel like puzzles played a bigger role in that game, but I also feel like just the grand scheme of it being an overhead, top down, the world just felt a little bit more designed for big puzzles like that. So with the new approach with God of War, I'm not a game designer, so I don't know the technical terms for it. They still want to throw puzzles in there, but the way that the map layout, just the overall game design, I can see why they didn't emphasize that. This one, it was heavily more emphasized on exploration. In the original trilogy, it was you were at a new area, you know, if you're in hell or if you're in
linear.
Yeah, it was very more linear. In this one, explore. You're not going to get a shit ton of puzzles, but you are going to get side quests that involve puzzles. But most of the games for you to progress was puzzle based.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just like, maybe you forgot. You had to have forgotten because the section we're talking about, you have to do that when you're fighting Thor. Like, I don't know how you missed it, but
yeah,
he probably.
Yeah, I'll say this much. I forgot that it happened. I didn't say that. I forgot that it happened, but I'm watching the gameplay. I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. That was kind of cool. To sum it all up, because I do want to touch about the story elements. To sum it up, I didn't mind the puzzles. The only thing I didn't like is, as we mentioned before, the smaller enemies. It just felt like something that was put out there just to fill out. You know, like with anime, when you gotta add in some filler time, you gotta make sure you hit that 30-minute mark, right? That's how I felt with that. The plants, where if you run out and it blows up. Oh shit, I got poison on me. Well, I guess I'm just gonna sit here and wait till it goes away. Like it was more of an annoyance. But the enemies busting out of the ice and actually taking half my health, if not killing me, that was more of a
I'm trying to think about that section.
Anything else,
right.
So
but
overall, level design, I was okay with it.
Okay, and I'll definitely have to explore further because. Well, no, small spoiler for you, Crimson. When you find you can expand the locations you can go to once you do a certain side quest. And it's like, oh, you unlock new locations to go to. So, but if we're done with the level, I think the briefest of briefs, I enjoyed the loadout system in this one versus the first one. I know, Crimson, you said you weren't a fan of the removal of the jewel slots, but I personally enjoy having the amulet be the sole point that you're putting your jewels into, because then you're able to really be more flexible with the actual armor sets themselves. Versus in the first game, I'm just like, man, I want to use this armor set, but only has like no slots. And that one jewel when you're playing on Gaming God of War matters because that's the difference of level 7 and 8. So in this one, I enjoyed that approach instead to the leveling system.
They definitely simplified it a lot more.
Yeah, in a good way. And some people, I don't know, me personally, people say they weren't a fan of the UI. Like I thought the UI was fine.
I will actually say that much in the game. When I first started playing the game, I did have a problem with the UI. Something about going through the menu options, it just seemed a little bit more cluttered than in God of War Ragnarök. I mean, in 2018, it's really hard for me to point it out. But once I played it too, and I go back and forth, I do feel like 2018's UI just seemed a little bit better, as well as just the overall menu settings. But I low key went to school, wanted to become a UI designer, so I probably just right. All right, but yeah.
All right, on to the next one. Okay, next one. Presentation. This should be super brief. Presentation, including Visuals, sound design, and music. Crimson, go. Rap or Corey, you're eager to talk about it. Go.
Just real quick, visually, beautiful game. Like when I was walking through the
Why
snow,
Kratos
I was
looking like
walking through
that?
the snow. Like even though the
Did you just
weapons
say
were
when I was
glowing
walking
and
through the
everything,
snow, I was walking through the snow?
yeah, you was walking through. Like, but you know what I mean? Like, have you
Saying
ever
like
played a
the
game?
snow
Like, it feels
mechanics.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
real
yeah,
life
yeah, yeah. I
snow.
get you. I get you. I get you.
The
Yeah,
snow
yeah.
physics were
Like the
they're
physics
by
were
far the
sound.
best.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of the best I've seen. The water, like it was a beautiful game. Is it the most beautiful game? I would not say that. I would not be. I know a lot of people.
It's up there.
It's
I'm
up
trying to
there,
think.
but so
For a
okay.
cross-gen game, for you said Uncharted, yeah, Uncharted, Naughty Dog, and
Uncharted
Yeah.
4.
Uncharted, The Last of Us, like they're really, really good.
Come on.
Yeah.
PS4 was like,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I never want to place it first place because I've seen like very detailed games prior to this. So,
Mm-hmm.
the sound to me, the music was no different than 2018 in my opinion. Because I was like listening to the soundtrack and everything, and I was like, maybe I should listen to like what Thor's theme was and everything like that. But the music was excellent, but I really don't think they went that far off from the 2018 version to make it new.
Mm-hmm.
2018 soundtrack was beautiful. It was literally one of the best video game soundtracks I've heard in a long time. I don't think Ragnarok did anything but maybe remix it a little bit, like add a little note here
Mm-hmm.
and there. But like when I was playing the Valkyries, like I was hearing the same song I heard last game, and I was like, I wish you kind of would have remixed this a little bit. But other than that, that's all I gotta say. I really
I like
don't
your
think
background,
anything
man.
of this.
Did I do something wrong? I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah.
Oh,
from
yeah.
a-
I don't know why I
from a
did that.
graphics-
Let's get a wallpaper.
Right? Yeah, that's a nice wallpaper. From a graphic standpoint, I think the game looked amazing. I really think the game looked great. Freya, for some reason, I felt like Freya's character design it just needed a little bit of cleanup, touch-up work. But in my
Been through
opinion,
some stuff.
right?
Fucking rough.
In my opinion, I think the creatures that got the best graphical touch were the dogs. I just think those dogs looked fantastic.
They look like dogs, but if I say that,
Ben-
what do you mean?
like-
The dogs look like dogs.
Fenrir when
Fenrir.
he took over, with Fenrir when he took over was the Grom. What was his name?
The portal rip dog, Graham.
Yeah, the
Grim.
Graham
When
crackers.
he took over Graham, it's like every time I had a close up of dogs, whether it was the Sun and Moon, Graham before Fenrir took
Garm.
over, or even Garm
That's what
before,
it
even
was.
after Fenrir took over him, I thought the graphics on them looked great. I even found myself in some of the cutscenes. I'll hit the setting menu real quick, jump over, change over to quality, so I could be like, dang, that game looks fantastic. And then I swap back over to 60 frames per second. So nothing like mind blowing from a like, wow, these graphics are just amazing. You know, games that really pushed graphics back in the day was the Crisis engine, Crytek engine. So Crisis
Gears of War
1, 2,
as
and
well.
3, Gears of War, Uncharted. You know, Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog.
Arkham Knight was beautiful.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
right. Come on
yeah.
now. Ragnarok was a beautiful game, but we're talking like boundary blowing. No, of course not. But I personally feel it was good.
It was.
I thought it was pretty amazing.
Svartalheim. Well, one specific location, like Svartalheim, was beautiful. Like just,
there's a lot of decent-
it's some good stuff, especially when you get towards the end with who is it, Suture, where he was, Suture. How do you pronounce it? Like the scenery. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
That was-
Darius, finish your.
Yeah, no, you're right on that though. When you're in the realm between realms, I at one point I just kind of looked to the side and I just stared out at the stars. I think the graphics in that area are fantastic. And then you turn to your left, you got your door right there. I could literally stand out there and just have that game sitting there in the background because it's just a beautiful area. Suitor, where he does his whole little Ragnarok thing. I love that touch of fire and ice and just how they made it converge together. I felt like that was also a really great aspect of what they could do from the graphics perspective. My issues with the game I had, but again, I'm on PlayStation 4. Thank you, Kamo, for lending me your PlayStation 4 Pro. a lot of texture popping problems. It's just too many. That's one thing I didn't like about it.
I'm doing great.
Get a PS5. We get a PS5 next year when Spider-Man 2 come out, but you know. But yeah, Mr. Dam, what about you, man? Tell us how the PS5 lights made everything better.
It was
God of War
amazing. It was
Legend.
perfect. You
So-
guys will never know.
Dang.
So,
Hey, look, I have you know my roommate has a PlayStation 5, so I can
too
understand from
late.
that
but
perspective.
does he have the appropriate TV to maximize?
Negative.
So here's the thing. So I know that I blow money on electronics, but so we have an OLED TV, 55-inch OLED TV, right? And it has 120 hertz. 120 hertz. Right? It's hard to find. The more expensive TVs have 120 hertz, and then the other ones cap out at 60, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
I can fully maximize my PS5 and my Series X by with that TV. So the reason I say that is not to flex, obviously, but to say it brings out.
that TV.
I know, right? But no,
Come on, man.
it brings out everything, bro. So I'm playing peak 60 frames per second performance, and I'm getting the visuals. So when you play the game like that, dude, like it you have no choice but to be immersed, and it's phenomenal, bro. It's hard to describe. Like it just looks amazing, bro. So if you're playing on say you have the PS4 Pro and stuff like that, which is I mean if you have it, but and whatever TV you may have.
Felt that shade.
No, never, bro, never. So what I'm trying to say is like that can change it too. That can change the perspective, and it could change how gaming is for you, bro. And like if I know that's monetary investments and all that other bullshit, but like what I'm trying to say is like since we play like that, dude, we get like the absolute best experience you can get with what is out right now.
I will say this for a PS4 game, and granted, saying for a PS4 game, as we just said, Uncharted and The Last of Us were beautiful games. This towards the late end generation of the PS4, it's on its last leg. They still managed to just make a phenomenal looking game and just impress so much, so well.
I do recall when I first got the game and Combo came downstairs and I have the original PlayStation 4, and he did actually looked at it. He's like, this game still looks pretty good on PlayStation 4. That was the base.
Yes.
So it still did look good for what it had, and
Right.
I agree with you. When you do have the ability to kind of play at this top peak form. I don't do PC gaming, so PC Master Race, you guys got it good out there. But the Witcher 3 it dropped this upgraded version for Xbox Series X, and that's what I play on the Series X. And just playing it with this upgraded mod, I'm just like, this 60 frames and everything else about this game looks great. I already liked it, but this makes me want to play it even more.
Exactly.
So,
It's even more immersive. So, like, that right there could be the difference between someone saying this game was like, it was cool versus, no, that was it, bro. Like, I was playing the whole movie,
Yo, was that an X that just popped up on the screen like it hit something there?
Yeah,
Probably.
I saw that too. I was like, this is like ding. Like,
Ignore me. I'm just multitasking over here, trying to make sure. I thought I had. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So, Crimson, you.
It did. It was. I just did the playback. It was like a little sparkle where he threw the rock. Man, this dude throwing rocks so far today, sparkling into light.
No, that was the coin that he had left. When he came in, Odin had gave him a coin. He took and threw it. So, yeah. So I think we all can agree that the visuals, sound design, and music were awesome. The music is really good. The music played at Brock's. We were talking about spoilers. Brock's funeral. I was like, it's a good song, man.
we need to go to plot.
Okay, that's it. Okay, now we're jumping into the main story, the plot, the one that we're all here about. The way we can do this, you guys try to keep it respectful as much as possible, but if you guys want to bounce off each other like we've been doing, feel free to do so because there's going to be a lot to discuss.
So I will say this and only this. Even though this game is called God of War Ragnarok, I really felt like I was playing God of War Rise of Atreus. Like it was really starting to irritate me with how much we had to go spending time with Atreus and how long we spent with him.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, those blend together. Yeah, so it just
character design is part of plot.
Yeah. So yeah, let's Cora, start us off.
So the plot, like I said, the beginning of the game is some of the best 2 hours of my life. Like it was so. I won't say my life. I had a good life. But the first 2 hours were amazing. Like I'm just ready to go. Freya's, on her shit, and I'm just and like Kratos, like man, like let it go. Like, if Thor comes in and
Odin shows up.
Odin
Bro,
shows up.
I'm gonna say
Kratos
this.
turns into a bear. Like,
I was hyped when Odin. I was like, "Hey, yo, is that Odin?" Hey, he just walking out. I was like, "Oh snap!" Continue. I'm sorry.
like literally the best 2 hours of this game. Like, Kratos is telling Freya about, like, his life, like, before he came here and everything.
Odin is a
It
piece of
was
shit, and I
so-
love it.
Like,
Yes.
it was so good, but then Atreus came in and decided to take over the game, and for me, it slowed it down to a very heavy halt. Like, when we went to Ironwood, man, that was when it was.
Don't you? The two young.
I did not like Ironwood. Whatever that.
I
the
think.
auntie, grandma, whoever.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna be all over the place here because I can't even break it down from start to finish. But if we're on the topic of Ironwood, I don't mind the area itself. It's just the length and how it kind of played into the story.
Too long.
Yeah, it was
It took like 2 hours to beat that area.
2 hours, dang. But
2 hours, like,
it felt very long. No, I get you. Yeah, no, it was a really long section of collecting fruits for the and I'm just like, what are we like? It was a huge slowdown going from playing as Kratos to this section of collecting fruit, and yeah, it was pivotal to understand, introducing a new character, learning more about Loki's his story. Yeah, exactly. And Atomic, it was just too long, especially. It's like it just kept going. It just you collect the fruit and everything. Then you gotta go do something else, and then you're like, oh, her grandma. We gotta go do something with her grandma. It's like,
And they collect some more fruit.
yeah. And then there's a boss fight, and then the
I had
snake.
to collect some paints. Like, she was like, I would need more colors for my paint. I'm like, that's why I think it took me like 2 hours as form of like just getting through it, because I was like taking a break. Like, I was like, okay, this needs to be a stopping point, I guess. Like, for me to do something else.
And Atomic, it's to let you get that feel of like, oh, look at the young kids being kids again in this cruel, not really entirely
That's
cruel
not
world.
what I'm playing but that's not what I'm playing Ragnarok for.
Bro, like, I'm not playing. Exactly, and I understand. Like, I guess if they want to stay close to the mythology a little bit, like, that's Atreus' wife, right? Like, that's Loki's wife in the mythology. But at the same time, I was kind of like, bro, this needed to get cut down by a lot.
Mhm.
It should have been as long as when Atreus went with Sindric to try to talk to Freya.
Mhm.
That's about as long as it should have been.
That's fair.
Atreus was low key kind of irritating
Low-key.
me too throughout the whole game. Like, no, that's gonna be a problem. Hey, low key was low key pissing me out though. Like, he. See, I agree with you there, Atomic. It's nice to just give a quick background and allow Atreus to walk into it as his own person, because we all were kids at one point, right? Coming of age and all that fun stuff. Give me that segment. He's branching off his own. He's finally doing his thing. He's Loki. He's the final giant alive. Well, technically not, but he's one of the major last surviving giants. Have his background story, but Ironwood, I don't need to collect paint. Who is your was it her auntie? Her auntie?
I think it was
Her
grandma.
mother. It was
Okay,
her grandmother.
I'm thinking I'm nearly done. It's like, hey, you want to go help me with my grandma real quick?
No.
Where was she mentioned?
It definitely
mentioned?
did break up the pacing of the game, that section. So let's walk it back a little bit. Svartalheim, how we feel about the Svartalheim location, just going there and shooting the shoot.
Remind me.
We're on a quest to go find Tyr is what we're doing with Svartalheim.
Boo!
You hated it?
So many doors.
Yeah, that was annoying too. That got annoying too.
Yeah.
The magic number was 3.
So real quick, another thing, and just kind of still hover around the intro section. I do feel as though the opening with Thor and Odin, and like the opening is one of the best openings in the game. The biggest issue I definitely had with the game though is that I don't feel like we reached those heights much, if at all, through the rest of the rest of the story, in my opinion.
Combo.
Yeah,
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the gameplay here, and you're killing the bugs. Did you think that was going to give you a special something, like some type of reward?
I had to test. Like they stood out so much. They stood out so much. I had to be sure. But
Okay,
how do you guys?
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So how do you guys feel about that? Like the opening was good, but to
I
me,
told you what I felt.
Yeah, you said it yourself. Like it definitely didn't carry that epicness. And I know God of War 3 did the same thing. It had a really huge opening and then it kind of layered down. But in 3, at least with God of War, like you're fighting all these different gods along the way. So it still has that weight in the world's like ending as you're going throughout it, as you're killing different guys with the killing Apollo, the suns getting blocked out. So it kept like increasing or at least carrying that impact as you're fighting gods. But in this one, man, it didn't feel like Ragnarok for most of the game.
Like even in God of War 3, even though you had to take some walks away, like you got sent back down to hell,
Yeah,
the objective never
definitely.
changed. The objective stayed the same. Kratos still had one mission, and that was to kill all the damn gods. And this it's primarily kill Zeus and everybody else was coming into the works. So even though we had side stories and side things that took us away from it, it still felt like, okay, I am actively okay. This I got knocked down into hell. I'm working my way back up. I didn't feel like I was walking off to do something kind of completely different while Olympus was falling. No,
Hmm.
I was the one that caused Olympus to fall. This is just a setback of the final destruction of Olympus. I'm working back on getting on track with that. With Atreus and Ironwood and there's other parts of the game, I'm thinking to myself, yo, do y'all remember that Ragnarok is like tomorrow? Like, y'all acting like this never went
Yeah, like
away.
I really felt like when they like even when the AI was trying to be like, oh, like, do you want to continue on or do you want to do something on the side to like clear your head? And I'm just like, do we really have time to do that? Like, I understand like they want you, and you mentioned this in the beginning of it. Like, do we want it to be one of those games where it's like, hey, once you hit this point, it's like you just keep like you can't go back. And I almost wish it would have because it kind of would have forced that dread because you're just like, oh, like once I start this, there's no going back,
I
you
think you would have
know?
been mad about that.
No, because like a couple game has have done it and they just kind of like either rewind time or you just, you know,
But
you
I,
can
sorry, go ahead.
No,
like the consequences like you couldn't come back from it. Like they'll
I would say this much
back
from other games. I think it's like The Witcher, for example. In The Witcher, when you fail to do a quest, you just can't do it anymore because the character that was supposed to do it, something happened now they're dead. In
hmm
other games, when you hit that final, like, hey, you can't go any further, that's because when you beat this game, that's the end.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So,
the end of what's
but
going to happen. So
the thing
when it
is
reloads up,
with this one,
Ragnarok.
well, no, no.
yeah, no,
So
you're right on that
real
though.
quick, they did do a clever job to where the story continues afterwards. So there's still more to do after
That's why.
Ragnarok, but. I can understand because I know with Final Fantasy 15, for example, when you get to the end game of that, you're in the point of no return. But it's like, well, actually, you can travel back in time and continue. So once the game ends, you can still travel back. But Ragnarok here had a purpose behind. The story still continues. There's stuff to do
Yeah,
post Ragnarok.
but continuing with the story here, because we're at 742.
And somebody, what?
Um,
Dom can go.
oh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
oh, yeah, I'm here. I've been just listening. I've been
So yeah, yeah, because I probably should have definitely put the story into bullet points to see how you guys felt. But this, if you remember, you can read the story, look it up on Wikipedia for a brief plot summary. That's what I'm doing, so I can remember exactly. But starting off, you're fighting Thor, Odin. How'd you feel about the opening? And as the game progressed, how did you feel about the story? I would say up to, let's say Vanaheim. I think when you're fighting with Freya, you guys go walking up. How'd you feel?
fight to find Freyr.
Start from the beginning, sir. What do you feel about the
So,
story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, for me, sorry, I was confused. So, the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna branch off too long into the Ironwood conversation. I just was listening. I will say though that it was a little too long. I will agree, probably like 30 minutes too long. But for me, it was too long because I am a completionist, so I tried to find everything. Which you didn't have to do. I found a lot of extra fruit that I didn't have to find, but it made like a difference in some lore and stuff like that, and some
Some
thinking
dialogue.
and dialogue. And I love unlocking all that because you might hear something that somebody didn't know. But yeah, it was a little too long, but I thought it was not that bad. I know people are kind of apprehensive about playing Atreus, but I will say this too. At the end of the game, I missed Atreus.
Hmm.
When I beat the game and I was traveling with Freya, I was like, damn, I kind of missed Atreus.
You know,
Just
I
he filled in the gaps. He
Hmm.
filled in the gaps with his not only lightheartedness but like his just dialogue, and you felt his presence not be there anymore, which is I think says a lot because a lot of us are more just worried about Kratos, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we also have to understand that it's not just his story anymore. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I can appreciate that they're doing that, and which I'm not saying I don't want to play Kratos all the time, which I do, but like I can appreciate it. And with as far as with Odin and all that, yeah, it did hit a good peak when you first fought Thor. But at the same time, like I thought that at the end of it, I do feel like that was a good peak. But then you go at it again, and it shit kind of hits the fan toward the end. I think there's a misconception about Ragnarok in general. The entirety of the game like was not meant to be a war. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not the entire. It was a build up to Ragnarok and dealing with Ragnarok, and then so they did a good job with keeping the main thing about Ragnarok and how the world's being affected by it, or it's leading up to it,
Mm.
and then it was just an event, in my opinion.
At the end,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and then here's my the big thing about it though is like that's why I was saying I might have a different perspective because after you have when you 100% the game, that completes the story of Ragnarok. Um, the event of Ragnarok is not, and I get you might want it to be because not everybody's gonna do the side shit. I get that, but I do like the different approach that they took um, for for whoever's gonna invest into the game. Completing the story 100%, and not even just 100%, but maybe just the majority of everything, like the main side quests and stuff, will more than likely change your perspective and has a really good. Um, it it adds more to the story, in my opinion, like a lot more, and kind of ties in those pieces that you felt were missing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So go ahead,
if you don't
Crimson.
mind, I was gonna put a little bit of touch on the story as well. Just like everybody else, the opening match, I felt like it was pretty up to par. Thor came in, gave us the hands. We gave him the hands. We all kind of nodded, and Thor had to always look down at his stomach and be reminded who gave him that cut. So
Yes.
that was okay, right? Free and Tier, that whole fiasco just it got annoying after a while. Try this door, no. Try this door, no. Try this door. Oh, we finally found him, right? The prophecies, I felt like that's pretty much what the game was about. Here's your prophecy, and here's how we're going to go about it. And then at the very end, there's like, surprise, you actually was following fate the entire time. But the takeaway is you had two paths and you chose one, so that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
the marbles, what really happened with those? Not too much really happened with it, but we spent so much
Yeah, the
time.
Ironwood location had so much time spent in it, but the payoff to the overall story didn't really warrant that.
I mean, how many times did he use the soul ability, right? He used it for Odin. He used it on Fenrir. He used it on the snake for the very first time. And that's, I'm sure I'm missing like one other part, but that's pretty much
I'm
it.
pretty sure that was
Really,
about it. I
he
know.
didn't really do much with it.
Yeah, he gave the
Um,
marbles back to Angerboda, so he didn't have them. He kept the one. I believe he kept Faye's marble is who he kept his mother's, and I think that's may have been the one he put Odin in. But just to jump off of that part, the yeah, I don't want to make it all about hating Ironwood, but again, it's just like the amount of time you spent there, and you help her grandmother. That doesn't really add to the story. She didn't
none
pop
of
up
it translates.
unless story. Dom, you say 100%, so maybe she pops up more. But in terms of putting it into the main story and how it plays into the main story, I feel as though it didn't play off well. The marbles again, he gets it. And the problem I have with like him using it to seal Odin to have like impact behind like, hey, this is the importance of learning that skill. Sindri just came by and killed him anyway. So that 1 second of he finally utilized it, of course, with Graham or however you say the dog's name again, it kind of just felt as if the impact wasn't really there, and it kind of felt pointless that we did this whole section to learn. Yeah, you learned the history of the giants and what actually happened to them, and learn that they are just in the marbles now. But again, it just felt like you guys spent too much time and the payoff wasn't there. And crap, where I want to go next with the.
Where I wasn't done.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I could just use this to the next talking point. We can touch on that. Freya's whole situation.
Yeah,
You know,
Freya's
Dust wanted
arc.
to help her
So
break.
much.
Yeah,
I have so much with Freya.
like I'm happy that we all joined forces because that's the whole point of the end of Ragnarok. If we're gonna come together to fight Odin, we can't be trying to kill each other. But I feel like the entire scenario of Freya's story and her trying to kill Kratos, it ended pretty damn quickly, in my opinion. So maybe
I
that could be
think
our next jump off point.
I feel like with Freya's character is supposed to be so. The only thing I had an issue with Freya, honestly, was her backstep on wanting to kill Odin. I hated that. I felt like her as a god. I felt like you're telling me that you had this conviction of like, fuck this dude. He's ruined my life. He's basically the reason why my son's dead. Da 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 da. My life's horrible. You know what? We need to be like we need to forgive him. Like we shouldn't go
We need to
all.
be better.
We don't need to see this all the way through. And I'm like, no, like you like he's a god, so he's supposed to be having this ultimate influence. Like you're supposed to see this through. And I hate it when you know for me with her forgiving Kratos, I like that honestly because Kratos was vulnerable with her for like he wasn't even that vulnerable with Mimir. Like
Exactly, and Atomic. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Mariah. Like she was
Atomic
the
made a
one
good point. She
that
was
wanted
wanted
the
the war
war.
more than anybody.
She just heart like so much that she was like, I want this man dead. He screwed over all of us. Like think of all that we've suffered together because of Odin and I and together just individually, whatever. But all the crap that we went through because of this man. And when you finally got this man, that's right. She just
got
like,
him dead too.
I don't
Like
know.
I don't know if I want this. I'm like, why?
Exactly. Exactly.
Bro,
I'm just like
that's like Kratos finally getting to Mount to the
Zeus.
top,
Like
and he gets to
Zeus, and
Zeus.
it's
And
like
he's
I
like,
forgive you, Father. Like
you're my dad, so I can't do it."
You're my dad. I can't do it no more.
I feel
So
like you could argue the other point though,
which
that
one?
maybe her questing with seeing that Kratos could change and has changed, never wanted to fight
See
anymore, this whole thing.
that will work if you laid crumbs along the way. If
Wait,
you lay proper crumbs along the way of second guessing. For me personally, I'm not gonna reference
well,
another game because that's spoilers.
what did everybody
Because
have
the
what did
only
everybody have in common there? Everybody said that Odin had destroyed their lives. Every single last person said it. So wow,
okay,
Freya was like,
okay,
I'm okay.
that's cool.
Kratos was like, I'm okay, but everybody else was just as screwed over. So for her
No,
to just suddenly
well,
give, go ahead.
Kratos was more like, he was the best. He was just going through because he wanted to help
protect his
Atreus.
family. Yeah.
He wanted to
Oh, he
protect his
killed Brock.
but
No, that's when he
no,
made it
but that's
serious.
what he
Leading up to that, he was Kratos is like
Kratos was not going for revenge for Brock. He was not doing this for Brock. He was simply doing this for Atreus because at the end of the day, he was like, Atreus is my son. I would literally destroy the world for this boy. Like, but Atreus was going there because he wanted to fulfill some prophecy because he just knew I just want to stop Odin. He didn't I don't feel like Atreus knew why he wanted to stop Odin. He just felt like he needed to stop Odin because he wanted to keep Kratos from dying.
from dying. Once he found out the rest of the lore at Angry Bodus, and that was his quest of what can I do to stop my dad from dying.
Right.
So early,
I kind of feel like when going leading into it, I feel like Kratos was against war. But what I appreciate, the reason I thought he was dead set on vengeance was because of the relationship that him and Brock got.
No.
One thing I really appreciate about God of War as a whole was that we finally got to see more character development for Kratos. Even though the story was about Atreus, I really love to see that camaraderie and that family that Kratos lost in the previous trilogy, how he grew it into this one. So there was a few times where he said, "We're going for vengeance." That he specifically said, "We're
so
going for vengeance" at this point.
No, I
so hold up. Let's back it up just a bit. So let's start off with prior to Brock's death. What was Kratos's role in the story, and how did he feel about Ragnarok and following Atreus before Brock's? Because once Brock died, then Kratos kind of had a personal goal himself. But leading up to it, when he was just listening to, "Hey, let's go find Tyr." Okay, I'm doing it because of you, son. How do you guys feel about his role to the story?
That
tears.
was
No, Kratos. Prior to Brock's death, his whole purpose here
His
was
purpose was literally to protect Atreus. He was
okay.
not doing anything more. He was just like, cause when he killed him, Heimdall, he was just like, hey, like I'm not trying to kill this dude unless he gives me a reason to. He spared him up until he lost his temper and killed him ultimately. Like,
if you read the lore entry, and I really loved that piece too. I feel like yes, it was to protect him, and it was also because he understood that Heimdall was a warrior, so he wasn't going to accept his mercy. But I also
Yes.
feel like deep down, Kratos liked it because that's what it said in the lore book, and that's another thing that we didn't mention. I love the lore entries. The reading it
Yeah,
from either
they add
Atreus's,
depth.
yeah, reading it from Atreus's point of view or mainly Kratos' point of view, and see how he addresses Mimir and just the rest of the people that he goes with. When he fought Heimdall, I think it was a mixture of all three. He said I was gonna kill you if you kept coming towards Atreus. He also respected the fact that he was gonna let him walk away because he was still a warrior at heart. And then two,
Yeah,
Kratos enjoyed it.
Hmm. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, Kratos is still a Spartan too,
he's
and
still a
he
warrior.
respects
Yeah.
Right, he's still a warrior, but I think after Brock's death, he specifically said, "You guys are having me declare like blow this horn to declare war. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it because the realms are asking for my help
Yeah,
essentially,
he
and
just needed
Atreus
to be
wants
stopped.
this.
Yeah.
Atreus
Yeah,
wants this. You guys want this." It was basically he was outvoted, and he was just like, "Look, if we're going to do this, we're going to. You can call it vengeance, but you need to understand we're going into like this is gonna be a bloodbath."
yeah,
And
I
he
really.
understood that better than anybody. So it wasn't to avenge Brock. Like Atreus
no,
could have that mindset, Freya could have her own reason, everything else, but Kratos as the leader was saying, you can call it vengeance, but at the end of this day, there will be just bloodshed, and it won't be no different than
The man in
because
the mirror nods
because if
his
it
head.
was vengeance, he would have killed Thor ultimately. He
Yeah.
was holding back the whole
Well,
time.
so I'll say this much about Kratos as a character. I felt like when I felt like Kratos had reached a point where his
So
character was
I wanna jump in real quick. I just saw on stream with Atreus and him speak about he wants to figure out who Loki is. He wants to get answers about Ragnarok. Go to war with the gods. Like
yeah, he was like really pushing it.
he was all over the place in terms of what he wanted.
Kratos
But
had the mindset of like we don't have to be bounded by destiny. Atreus had that. Well, I saw it on the wall, so I have to make it fucking happen, man. I have to
or
make it
figure out
happen.
answers.
he,
Because
well, he was
Atreus,
protecting Kratos the whole time. He
he was
said it
protecting
so many
Kratos, but
times.
he was protecting Kratos,
But
but he
Kratos
also had that
already knew.
but he had the naivete that he thought that it
It
was
was the
just
sun.
because Atreus is supposed to be what 14 in this show or in the video game,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
he's just like, oh, we're gonna win, and Kratos is like, it's not just about you're going to win, like. People will die. You will lose your
Yeah,
friends. You could lose your life to
yeah,
win. Like there's sacrifices that's going to happen. You just don't declare war, do a couple things here and there, and you win. And that's what Atreus's naivete is supposed to be coming in. Like when Tyr was mocking him, like, or well, not mocking him, but saying, "Hey, champ!" Like it was to hype Atreus up to start Ragnarok
Hmm.
because
yeah,
Odin thought he was gonna win. Odin was like, "You can
yeah,
start Ragnarok. I've been waiting for years for this shit."
exactly.
And then Atreus is like, "But the prophecy said we're gonna win, so what's the big deal?"
Hmm.
But Kratos has literally dealt with war his entire life,
But
and
also
he's just
Well,
at a certain point, Odin knew the truth too of what was going to
right.
happen.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
knew the truth what was gonna happen, but
So
he was still prepared. He was just like,
right,
you know what? I'm still gonna be prepared. And I'm not trying to. I kind of want to move this along because I want to know what you guys thought about the mask.
That's gonna be.
so
Yeah, we're gonna say that for later.
yeah, so the last piece I was trying to go on with the breakdown of Ragnarok and Kratos' approach. I feel like what Kratos really was going with the approach was he understood what Odin did to everybody, but he also understood who was not to be blamed. So while he was ready, when he said this is for vengeance, I don't mean like Ragnarok, so all of Asgard has to fall because of that for Brock. Odin killed Brock. So
right,
Odin and Kratos is who Kratos is like, bro, you killed my brother. I'm coming for you. But Thor, my son calls your daughter my friend. I don't want to see you destroy your family. Those innocent Aesir or whoever those people were that Odin
The
brought up into their house,
Midgardians. I don't know what they're called, but they were Midgard refugees. They
The
were
refugees.
Midgard refugees, I
Yeah,
think.
the refugees. He was like, those people are not part of this war. So I feel like Kratos like come into the game, he had finally been able to fall between that balance. I'm coming for dude's head because he killed Brock, but all the people who did not, you know, do anything in this, I'm not trying to kill you. So Thor, I know you don't like me, but let's try to talk it out. These
I guess
innocent people, Atreus, because Atreus even said it himself. He said, "Close your heart to it." He said, "No, don't close your heart to killing innocence." So that shows that Kratos had grown as a character, that he wasn't
I
just going into
really
Ragnarok killing everybody, but he did still feel like Odin had to suffer, whether by his hands or by
uh,
somebody else. Because
I
Hmm.
don't really feel like Kratos was going for. I really
no,
don't feel it. I really don't feel like he was going for. Like I hear what he's saying. I hear what he's
So
saying.
real quick, before they called Gallagher, I think the line specifically was that we're not doing this for vengeance, we're doing this for justice. That's
Well,
and
that's
that's
what I was gonna say.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's just my closing statement. That's what I mean by when Kratos went in there ready to tear shit up. It was to bring justice to Odin and not to bring innocence into the mix as well.
Exactly. And what it was the reason the Brock thing was so impactful was because at that point Kratos understood that he couldn't ignore this any longer. And it wasn't that he was ignoring it, he was trying his best to not do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because of he understood everything. So when it did infiltrate Sindri's house, the one place they thought they were safe, they weren't. And they saw what Odin would do to get what he wants, and that's what kind of initiated this being Kratos being part of this burden. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's kind of a perspective to look at it. It wasn't that he was like, "Oh, I'm going for vengeance," and he just didn't want to do it in general, but he understood he couldn't ignore it, and he has the ability to stop it, and so that causes the rest of the game.
Last thing I want to say, that Heimdall boss fight, in my opinion, is probably one of my favorites because I just saw Kratos go back to his old days of just being a monster, and I hate it and love Heimdall at the same time. He was that smart ass dude. I was like, you know what? I don't like you, but you got some shade when you want to throw it, but you gotta die. So I appreciated that whole fight sequence and the
Mhm.
general entry of how he felt about the whole fight.
I can see the thing peeking over there. So yeah, going with what Atomic said about Kratos not wanting war, that was pretty much like his whole purpose of the story until the whole Brock thing was like, I don't want war. I just want to keep my family safe. That's the main thing that I'm focused on. And so as you're going throughout the story, it's basically, as Mimir was saying, especially after Kratos learned about his fate in 2018, his whole approach was, my time's coming and I just want to spend as much time with my son as possible. So that's why they were going on.
Safe.
Yeah, and that's why he was accompanying him on so many different things. Like he was saying, we shouldn't fight here, but and this
Instead of having Atreus hate him and him just
resent, yeah, because he's gonna go out on his own.
I have to embrace this.
Yeah, but
He opened his heart to it,
yeah, and I will say though, for me, that's why I kind of feel, and this one of my questions I was going to ask later on, but it's also here, is that's why I kind of feel a trilogy would probably been better for this, so you can have that build up of that middle section of, okay, what's life during Fimbulwinter, and then you can spend the final game really pushing towards this is Ragnarok's going to happen and what we're doing to prepare for it. Because of how long the game was, there were sections in between where I kind of feel like we didn't really know exactly what we're trying to do here for the story. And that's kind of why I prefer 2018's story, because you know what the start is, you know what the end is. We have a objective, and what the issues that we're coming across is just like hurdles in our quest. We know what we're doing. And as I was playing Ragnarok, I kind of just felt like things are just happening as they go. And, depending on who you ask, that's not a problem. That's just a story naturally being fleshed out. But for me personally, I kind of just had to start asking questions like, okay, so what is our primary goal here? What is our objective here? And it was this moment where I just kind of just felt like we're just wandering around trying to figure it out. But I mean, yeah, it was Atreus before he went to Angerboda and saw the extra prophecy. I didn't really know exactly what Atreus wanted, aside from wanting to know who Loki was and what exactly was Ragnarok. And even then, his push to say we got to end Odin, I didn't really get the purpose of why he wanted to fight Odin so much until things changed, because then it changed from we got to fight Odin or bring the war to him. It's like early on, he's like, you got to start acting like a general. I'm just like, what you talking about, Atreus? Like, what?
That's exactly what Kratos said too.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to, but what I'm saying is that, like,
I think his exact words were
no. But my point is like Atreus didn't know what he wanted until he got to Angerboda and saw that his dad was going to die, because then that's when he learned about Kratos' fate, and that's why his quest kind of shifted to, how do I protect my father? But even then, when he got to Odin, I was still kind of confused as to, okay, are you trying to that's a whole different thing. So he kind of did start to have his own quest point at some point, but even then, it was still. I felt like the supporting cast didn't entirely know what they wanted to do at some point. So, but
They didn't understand Kratos coming to Midgard and everything. None of them understood what it meant to call for the entirety of the realm or realms to clash, or for everything that all that matters and it was required for everything to work. They didn't understand in Midgard what it meant, and Kratos was the only one who did and does until Ragnarok happened. So um, instead of wiping fucking freaking everything out.
hey, you can swear, I don't care.
Instead of wiping everything out,
I don't think
Kratos
Anatomic cares.
right.
Here
But
goes
like,
those millions.
No.
so instead of wiping out like everything like Kratos did with his way of rage and vengeance and everything, he was like, we're gonna do what needs to be done and just purify the the what is causing turmoil in these realms, i.e., or so hence when you beat the game, he has a new purpose, which is to do that. You know what I mean? And to kind of go off of what you were saying too, Darren, was I hands down think this is a second game. I think this is a second
It's
game. There's no way in hell.
so let me phrase it this way. For you, Dom, as far as we know, this is the final entry for the Norse saga.
As we know, yes.
So with that in your mindset, how do you feel? Like, not even questioning, because it sounds like you're kind of holding back. I won't say holding back, but like your thought process is different because you're expecting a sequel or a trilogy in this. But how do you feel thinking or understanding this is the final product? What do you think about that aspect?
So even with that, I'm okay with it because everything kind of got wrapped up. The story was told, right? There's nothing in the story, at least, that I'm like, what the hell? Now, the execution. So
I have one.
Okay, so before we get to that, real quick, because I do want to comment back. Actually, go ahead, say it.
I was really hoping, and this is actually a little bit what Cora was talking about too with the mask. I was hoping to really find out how the hell did Kratos get here. That's the biggest thing that I've been waiting to have an answer. How did he leave from Greek to get here?
Greece.
Yeah, I get that.
The portals.
Totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Regardless, I could care less. But like, with that being said too, like I guess he just kept he kind of said it in somewhere in the while they were talking.
So
he just kept going in one direction, like away from everything he had done. You know what I mean? And like I get that can be, that is a whole nother damn story or even a whole podcast. But that's just kind of what he did. He destroyed where he was from. He jumped and no, I think he ended 3 by stabbing himself, right?
Yeah, he stabbed himself to release the power of hope, and then he fell off the cliff, and somehow he survived.
So there's a lot to be said by that. He could have just been taken by the waters, and then when he gets to land, just starts walking in one direction. So there's a lot to kind of do, but I understand wanting to know how I get
how the realms connect to each other, for example.
That's the point that I was trying to make right there. It's like, how do these realms connect to each other? How does
or mythos?
When Suda was like, those are from primordial flames, he's like, well, they're not from your homelands. They're still primordial flames. So I'm thinking in the hierarchy, everything comes together somehow. So that's why I was just curious about how did he get here?
Yeah, especially after the first game where they're referencing Tyr and how he traveled between the realms and stuff. I say realms, universes, and they didn't really. And maybe I'm just misremembering 2018, but I don't think they really expanded upon it that much in the sequel, especially after putting a lot of weight behind figuring out.
There's going to be a third one, man. So, like, as much as the story was wrapped up and everything was answered, there's so much other stuff that can be, and they do it on purpose, bro. They do it on purpose. Like, there's a reason why they showed you Asgard and Jotunheim in the first one. Remember? Like you could see it, but you couldn't go to it or even anything with it.
And
just in case, So,
well, in this one you have all of them unlocked aside from Asgard. Asgard's destroyed, so you can't.
7 minutes ago, Halo Reach.
So real quick, it is just to get everyone's time. It is 8 o'clock. Y'all good to just keep going until we're done, or does anyone have some priorities to get to? Because I got a lot to say. I got a lot to say. So I'm just getting the
insight about the mask. I want to hear you.
So before we get into the mask, because that's another thing, how do you guys feel about how Thor and Odin were used in the story? Their depiction of characters, how they.
It was supposed to be like the relationship Kratos could have had with Zeus, like if he never like rebelled against him.
I saw that.
Like
he just phased in.
He just like ultimately like Odin used him as a dog. Like
Right.
he was just like
It
go
was
over
Ares
there and
and
fight.
Zeus all over
Like
again.
Yep, you're right. That's exactly what would have happened. Yep, you're right. So that's the type of shit that I love about this game is like there's those subtleties of that. Knowing everything we know about the previous games and Kratos' history, it ties it. That's part of what ties all this together. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like it's like everything around him is trying to be his past. You know what I mean? So it was almost like Kratos got put into a situation to redeem himself in another realm, or
Mm-hmm.
in other realms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, but it could have happened without what he did, which adds more depth to it. So yes.
Okay.
So I mentioning Thor and Odin, I really feel like I will say this much. I want to roll back to that before I forget. When I have completed a game, I went on Reddit to see everybody else's insight and how they also feel about the game too. And one of the posts that I saw, they had made a reference to how they had depicted Odin and Thor in 2018. Modi and his brother pretty much got bodied when one of the brothers died. The other one got sent back by Thor, like nearly dead because he was pissed off at what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2018, I'm like, damn, the dad sent his own son nearly dead himself. So this must be a really badass guy. And at the end of 2018, when he shows up, I'm like, okay, Thor's really about to start getting into some stuff. So while I did appreciate seeing Thor's character grow, it really pained me to see what happened to him at the end. I was still also thinking that they were really subtle on Odin as well as
Yeah,
Thor, just their
definitely.
antagonist
Their
role.
atomic. Yeah.
I know, really.
It.
Yeah,
I just jumping far ahead of the conversation because, like I said, the plot situation we're just gonna be all over the place. I hated that Thor died. I really
he died like that.
yeah like that like
I hate that he died in general.
I
was okay with him dying, honestly. Like I feel like it was just like
it was just so sudden is the issue I had. Like you finally see things can change and maybe if he still ended up dying that's fine, but yeah. And maybe it would have been
but not with Odin around.
yeah,
I feel
maybe
like
it would have been cliche to have him do something that's like, yeah, I basically air quote sacrificed myself in one way but just to have him get that character turn around and instantly die, I'm just like, damn, that growth change is
They did that on purpose.
through into a win. But yeah,
maybe if the fight was a little bit more drawn out, a little bit more well pieced together, and it was a Odin maybe on the verge of death, but Kratos is like, all right, I'm not gonna kill you because that's not who I am anymore. And then they have their quick talk like they did in the original game, and then Odin comes up and kills him like the way he did. I'll be a little bit more okay with that. But
mm-hmm.
the reason I was bothered by it is because we saw how much Thor's drinking problem, just the rest of the problems they were having. Sif being angry.
That I felt like that part was.
Hold on, guys.
Yep.
Sif and Thor, like their situation. Sif was going back and forth with Thor because she's like, "This is the son of the man that killed our child. Why are we friends with him?" And then him drinking and then having his problems with or whatever their daughters. Yeah, Thrud and their daughter's name, and seeing that connection between him and Atreus, the guy that killed his son. They're kind of getting that like, okay, I can respect you as a son to Kratos, and I can respect you as Thrud's father. And then him finally coming to terms with his problems, and then boom, he's just dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why I didn't like the way that he fell, because I personally was starting to get invested into Thor as a character because he was showing himself being vulnerable, and we're there by his side, and then everything happens where he's like, hey, I got to get out of here now because we're in hell and Thor's ready to kill me, and then boom, he's dead now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go ahead now.
I was just gonna say like but I like that they did do it. I don't care that he died either, and yeah, how he did could have been done differently.
2 seconds of character and died.
I know, but I like that though at the same time because it's like just what I said. Like there is hope. Kratos showed them that. Atreus showed them that you can change. Things can change, and but the second, like you said, he thought that, felt that, and he felt that. Odin took that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a testament for his. If he did that to his own son, he did that for everything and everybody, and
Everyone.
Mm.
that was well
I
established.
yeah, and speak about Odin. I
Odin is
I I'll put it this way: one of my gripes, and maybe I'll have to do one of those moments where I'm like off by myself on the stranded beach or something. I start to look within myself to see get
the
some
deepest Odin
exactly.
meaning,
I
dog.
I just didn't like. So let me walk it back a bit. The problem I had with this one and their depiction here is that in 2018, you hear all these stories about these guys, about all the people they screwed over, the scare, the power of Thor. And yeah, he displayed his strength at the start of the game. Odin just screwing over everyone. When you finally meet him, I mean, maybe that was just the whole point. Is just no, he's a cool dude. You know, he's just hanging out in his office.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out in his office
I
doing manager stuff,
so
and that was it. I was
I'll
like,
say this much.
oh, okay,
I like to study, not like I study it for real, but I like to kind of pay attention to like human psychology and like how people carry themselves when they're
Yeah.
trying to be when they have ulterior motives. So when I was watching Odin, I was really studying him as a character. I was seeing
Yes.
how he gently spoke to Atreus, his choice of words, his choice of tonality, and I was like,
Everything.
that
yeah,
is somebody who talks. He's doing the way that he's doing it,
to
so he can
get
get
him
on
on
your
your
side
side.
and then he
Yeah.
can manipulate you.
And
So
that
I
was
will
like,
say that much. That's
right.
what I saw.
Hmm.
No, you
That's
good.
the
That's
thing.
what
I
I saw.
felt
Yeah, that was manipulation 101, and I saw that
like
from
that.
Be
Like
cool and
Atreus
yeah.
is young, so that's easy to do for Odin.
But
yeah.
notice how he talks to Atreus, though.
Yes, that
Exactly.
like I understand he's manipulating Atreus and like but I guess like when you see Atreus as a character and you are as an adult playing the game, you're you're annoyed the whole time
You,
because
this man done told you so much
you're
shit
reading
about. You heard so much about this guy, and he's like, he's not that bad, but he is
I mean
young. He
That's how
is
kids
easily
are, man.
manipulative. So
That's how. Yeah.
Let Corey continue.
well, I understand that's how kids are and everything, but I felt like Atreus is supposed to be raised in an environment like for the mindset of war and everything else, and he's just like, "Oh, actually, isn't a bad guy, but we need to start Ragnarok." I'm like, what's the goal here, Atreus? You're trying to tell me you're having mixed feelings about Odin, but at the same time you're trying to start a war. On the other side, you're like, "No, I'm just gonna use Odin." Next year being like, well, his family's not that bad. It was kind of like I don't. It wasn't consistent of how I'm supposed like how the characters are supposed to feel. I
What did
felt like
Heimdall say?
he's gonna trick you.
Heimdall, no, Heimdall literally said, "You don't even know what you want."
Yeah.
Atreus,
right.
he
Exactly.
called him out.
He doesn't know what he wants, and I felt
Right.
like it was
And
more frustrating than like made me like what does Atreus want? It made me like Atreus go back to daddy. Quit trying to start a war.
Yeah.
and that's why I felt like the story early on, we're
Help
just
him
like
prevent your dad's death by trying to trick the god a
a trick.
god. Like
Yeah, like
It
so
was meant
that's
to
where I'm
be.
just
It was
like,
meant to make you
like
feel
that's
like
what I
that.
mean.
depending on how you look at it, it's like, come on, Trey. It's like you're talking about the god of tricksters. You're or the one that's been manipulating everyone. You're just like, maybe I can trick him. And it's like,
Like
boy, have
maybe
you
I
not
can
heard these
trick him.
stories? And again,
Heimdall.
if someone say, well, look at teenagers in our real world and how, or people in our
It
real
doesn't
world and young
convince me of
people.
it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, you want to argue that, and that's why Trey has tried to believe he could change, but
I felt
I'm
like he
just
had to
like,
try because at the end of the day, he didn't know what he wanted to do, and he didn't know what to do and how to do it. But at the end of the day, he knew he wanted to save his dad, and
mm-hmm.
he
He
felt
wanted
like
to
he
save.
did. He felt like he did what he had to do to save
Man,
Kratos
look at them parries.
because he thought I know you're going in, but he thought that that was the only way, and like he didn't know what the hell was going. How was he supposed to know what the hell was going on? He was being manipulated, but also being told that what you're trying to do is wrong, but also scared about losing his dad because that's all he
Well,
has left, and
and
there's a lot
I
to
would, I would
unpack in there.
also, I will also say that like Atreus has spent a lot of time with Kratos, who barely let the man go out on his own, and then you have Odin again using his personality and how he can manipulate him. You are the one that can do this. Only you can solve the
Exactly.
mask. Like he was really hyping Atreus up. Like, come
Yeah.
on now.
He
Mm-hmm.
was trying to be his father, which that's how it is in real life too. Like you're used to your parents like digging into you and always being that person. So like you maybe it's
And then that
grandparents or like
one
somebody goes
cool
to their
uncle.
grandparents and they're like, man, I love going to grandma. She's always
But
nice and blah
okay,
blah
I
blah.
have a
But like
question.
that's not gonna help you be who you need to be and prepare you for all these different things,
But
i.e., what Kratos has been doing for Atreus.
but I have a question. My problem with that, I understand if he's conflicted, but at the end of the day, he kept on saying, "Let's start Ragnarok." At the end of the
I
day, he still said, "Let's start Ragnarok." Even when he was just like, "Oh, I can use Odin, I can do this and that." He knew Ragnarok is supposed to be the end of what's it called, Asgard.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So he knew ultimately it was going to end in Odin's death. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, so he's just like, oh, that's not that bad, and he's like, but I'm gonna use him. But he's not that bad, but I'm gonna declare war on him. That's where my confliction is with Atreus as a character. Like, yes, he doesn't know what he wants, but it annoys me that he's going so hard into the motions that I feel like me as a gamer can't even like
As the viewer.
appreciate the story, the
Mm-hmm.
story of Atreus, because I'm like, you don't know what you want. You're just starting a war, but at the same time, this is a cool grandpa. And
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
Yeah.
was
that's my
about to say,
problem. If he
yeah.
was saying like, you know what, Dad, maybe we shouldn't start Ragnarok because Odin is just misunderstood. Like, okay,
But that
maybe
was his
like
whole thing through the whole game too, though. That's
no,
Atreus's thing. He cares and he
but I'm
sees the best and well
but
tries to
that's
see the best in
He's
everyone.
very
but that's
naive.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying. He still at the end of it, through the entire thing, he still wanted to cause Ragnarok. He never turned back on that. He said all he saw was Odin, I'm gonna win Ragnarok. Oh, my dad's gonna die. I'm gonna use Odin. Oh, Odin's not really a bad guy. Oh, I made friends with his granddaughter.
Mm.
Thor was just
So
misunderstood. Oh, but we
And
still need to
Tomix,
start Ragnarok.
real quick, Atomic, he
Tomix
said,
is very
yeah, he said he had a prophecy from the giant and ran with it. He wanted to make sure Ragnarok happens without really knowing what would happen at the end.
yeah. So that's a conflicting thing, and it played
Hmm.
out how as what we played.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we know that at the entire time Atreus was trying to save Kratos, but it wasn't really until the end of the game where the mask became the main forefront and everyone knew the mask. It was like if we solve this mask, I can finally get an answer to everything.
He
And
didn't solve the
So,
mask.
yeah, like a part
so
of
I'm
okay,
what I was gonna
okay. The
say is like
last
a part of it
before,
was learning how to save even you, like how to save my dad. So
I
that's
criticized the
we had
crap
to
out that mask.
well,
so
I was gonna add that we still have to remind ourselves that a part of the good reason why Atreus was trying to use Odin again, this is the High Father, my guy, was that way he could learn how to protect his father in the end. Now the whole Ragnarok
All
thing,
Father.
like Antomic said, it was just like, hey, the giant said it was gonna happen, so you got to do everything in your power to make it happen. So have fun.
Mm-hmm. So before we get to the mask, because Mariah, me, and you, we expressed how much we hate it. How do we feel about the whole story that they were trying to approach of you're not ruled by prophecy, you make your own
I loved
choices.
it. I
You
loved it.
liked it, but then we
I like.
find out that this whole time you guys weren't really following the right prophecy because someone else.
If you recall what I said, if you recall what I said at the beginning of our stream here, the end of the game was like you had two choices and you decided which one you wanted to take. Not that you saw there was only one and one only path, because they knew that there was two. Well, they knew of one path. They didn't know of the other path. But regardless of them knowing that it was there or not, the fact of the matter was there were two paths that they could take,
Hmm.
and they kept saying you are the decision of your choice. You make your own decisions. You make your own decisions. And we find out at the end of the game that we were actually living true to that, even though it was still technically a prophecy, but it was prophecy B instead of prophecy A, and we made the decision to go with B.
Hmm.
So combo, I just like I had to rewatch it right when they were talking to the gnomes, the norms.
The
No,
garden gnomes.
what was it?
The
What are
dwarves,
they
that's
called?
Oh, the
No,
Nords.
no,
That's right.
the
yeah, the
norms.
Norns, yeah, the Norns,
Okay,
Norns.
so I decided like I had to rewatch it, right? Because I was like, okay, the prophecy idea, but it wasn't. It's not a story about true prophecy. It's kind of like what Crimson was saying, like exactly what he's saying. Like they were saying, Kratos, you always choose option A. You just rip people's heads off. You just no questions asked. You just know your family's under threat, and your only solution is to kill them ultimately with no you think of nothing of the consequence later, you just go ahead and kill them. And I don't know, I have to find this again, but they were talking about, the developer was talking about they wanted to do a split off if you ultimately killed Thor,
Hmm.
or wanted to kill Thor. But if you
Yeah.
like, I have to find it, but they basically said if you ultimately wanted to kill Thor, Kratos would have died. That's what would have led to his death, because he would ultimately keep doing the same thing over and over and over. That's what they're just saying. You're just predictable. Statistically speaking, you're going to kill him, and it always leads to more trouble. And if you do it this time, it's going to lead to your death. And
So
so they weren't. Sorry.
I just want to make one note on what you had said about that. With the Norns predicting it, they had said they said one thing: you're going to kill Heimdall protecting Atreus. But what actually ended up happening, but what you said also, Cora, is that he like that's his nature, right? So that the Norns said you're going to kill him protecting Atreus because that is what your nature. But they split that into two. One, he didn't kill Heimdall because he was protecting Atreus. He killed him because yeah, he was threatening him, but we were trying to protect Freyr, and Heimdall would not stop. But the Norns were still right about the other part because it's who you are in your nature. Again, if you look back at the lore entry, he said, "I kind of liked it." And so again, that's why right. That's again why.
Yes.
Right?
Blood.
Right? That's again why I say like with the Norns and just like the overall story and like what prophecies you take, they kind of do
Kick Atreus across the snow like
it.
that.
What happened? What happened? Did he teleport?
Atreus across the snow.
No. Oh yeah, that was right. There was a section where he just kind of like teleported in front of me. I was like, what the hell? He just zipped towards me. I was like,
I see what happened.
oh yeah.
But that's just what I want to say. Like the whole thing about when like Combo said about the idea of like choices and stuff, and what the Norn said with what you said, Mariah. Kratos was going to kill Heimdall because at the end of the day, it was his nature. But he didn't kill it out of protecting Atreus. He killed it out of Heimdall keep pushing his buttons. But again, he still was true to what the Norn said. It's in your nature. And Kratos said, I did enjoy the fight. I'm not going to lie. So,
Mhm.
They didn't
Yeah.
say that killing Heimdall would be the cause of Kratos' death. They were just saying like you always pick option A, and because you always like, they're just saying you're going to.
We don't predict the future. You guys are just predictable.
And then exactly, you're just predictable. So it's just like if you keep speeding, like going 90 and a 40, like you're
You're eventually gonna wreck.
you're gonna get pulled over eventually.
You're gonna get pulled over, or you're eventually gonna wreck. Like you can keep picking A, and then sometimes you'll go home. Nope, no cop is gonna see you, or maybe this is it. Like this is the last 90 and a 40 you going. But I think that's what they're saying with Kratos. They're like, for example, Heimdall's gonna kill Atreus, and you gonna kill him. I'm gonna go kill him. Okay, we told you.
Mhm.
One thing I
with
just love. Oh,
Thor,
go ahead.
that was
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like him not killing Thor, I think that was the test, the ultimate test. Like, are you going to kill Thor in Ragnarok? Or you're
You
actually
cut
gonna
out.
make it better? You're protecting your family.
Hey,
Or
Cora,
they
you
have
cut out.
You-
Start back at the Thor segment when you had the choice to kill
I'm
Thor.
just saying, I just think like when that not killing Thor was the ultimate test.
Mhm.
Like they were just saying, like, are you gonna continue being a monster, and you're just gonna think that killing your enemies, protecting your family is always gonna be the best option for you? Because it is kind of selfish of Kratos to keep killing his enemies to protect his family in a way, you know?
Mhm. Just
It
like
is,
Needhog.
but
Needhog. He was like,
the whole time,
or not
though,
even that. He was just he killed her because.
the whole time I was playing the game though, and they knew this, like they knew of Heimdall going to kill Atreus. I was literally asking myself, what else do you expect Kratos to do? This is his son. So while he's like, I know you guys are saying he's gonna kill Heimdall because that's his nature. I'm just like, well, he keeps saying it. I will do whatever it means to protect my
Yeah.
family. Are you
You're a
telling me not to
monster.
protect my family?
Well, I mean,
Heimdall
yeah, I'm a
wanted to
you
kill
know.
Atreus.
Go ahead, Don.
Sorry, I just had to spit that out. Like Heimdall was saying, "I don't like you. I want to kill you, and I'm going."
You're
to.
gonna portray the All Father.
Anybody says that, there's only one option, bro.
Right.
And
Mhm.
because
Somebody says that they're gonna kill your son. Yeah, somebody said
He
I'm
said-
going to kill your
yeah.
son. Like, what do you do?
No, there's only
You
one
gotta go
thing.
do
He
it.
said,
Yeah.
"I'm
No,
gonna kill
I
you."
definitely get what you
There's
guys are saying because it's
only
like,
one way to stop that. Just like Balder, there was only one way to stop that, bro.
yeah. So it's like
That's the
you're.
only time Kratos has killed them is because that was the only thing that was gonna stop them, man.
Mhm.
Right.
No,
Right.
I
No,
definitely get you.
I'm not disagreeing with that part, but I'm saying like Thor could be the one exception that if you kill, like, you trying to finish off Thor can lead to your own death.
Because then you have Thru
Because
trying to kill him. You know,
Thru could jump in, or like Thor just
Sif. So
Sif, like it's just like Kratos. You can pick A. A has always worked out for you, but it's not a guarantee each and every time.
Mhm.
So that's
So-
what I'm saying. Like if you go into Ragnarok and you going to kill Thor, it may not work out the same, buddy. Like this really could be the downfall, or even ends up killing Atreus. Like that's what they mean. I felt like
Yeah.
that's what they meant.
okay, I get you. So let's move over to the one you really want to talk about, Cora. The Mask.
Hey, Cabo, you gotta call Atomic out for that. You gotta call him out for that comment because that's what I'm saying.
What he say? Heimdall, I'm
said,
gonna gut your
Heimdall.
son. Kratos, understandable. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Like,
What else are you supposed to do? Just like, oh yeah, cool.
like at one point, didn't Kratos say that? He like, what do you expect me to do? And that's what my takeaway was. What did you honestly expect me to do? And lastly, before we move on to the mask, I agree with you on that core about with the Thor fight and that being his final decision. When it came down to Heimdall, Heimdall left him no other choice. He literally left him no other choice. Same with Balder. He left him literally no other choice. If I stop, he's gonna kill me. When it came down to Thor, he had a choice and he made his choice. So that's what I like about the idea of like defying, prophecy and also going along with prophecy. He had a chance to stop his nature, which was you had a choice to kill Thor or not. I didn't. But when it came down to Heimdall, we said that you were gonna kill him. You still did, but it wasn't because you said fuck it. I just want to kill
The
him.
reasoning behind him. Yeah, no, I get you. So yeah, let's just jump straight into the mask. How do we feel about? Yeah, no, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I hated how they finished that story point.
Let's let Dom start off. I don't think Dom has started off
A topic, yeah.
for a while.
Dom, you're the man who won 100%. You probably found some extra lore. What's your thought on the mask and how such a key point it had to the story, such a pivotal point to the story, and we see how that concluded.
So with the mask, right? There were actually side stories and stuff like that after the game. It doesn't. They don't. They don't close that book. They don't reopen the book.
They don't answer nothing. Yeah.
No, they don't. So that's why I so strongly believe there's going to be a third one, kind of explaining that they built too much more again after after stealing the book on the first game and Ragnarok and stuff. They built so much more. That's why I feel like there's gonna be a third one. But like with the mask, that didn't really bother me. It was kind of the source of why Odin was the way he was.
And
So
Tomic
it
said it
made-
perfectly. I'm
And
sorry.
Yep, he said it best. He said it best.
That is fine.
A
That's
wasted
that's
platform.
fair. So and I can agree with that if this is the last one. I will say that, right?
Yeah.
And which they
Okay,
say
let's act that it is.
which we act like it is. So yes, in that realm, yes, there could have been way more to it because I was wanting to put that thing on, man.
You
so I
do
could look
all
at it.
this. You do all this work
Dude,
to
I
go
didn't
figure
even
this
look at it,
out.
bro.
Bro, I honestly thought we were gonna look into the realm and see the developers working on the game.
I know, dude, I don't know what
So, real quick, what was it? I took note when he first found the mask. Atreus said the mask was shit. Let me find my notes. Where my notes at? He said it was basically truth, this wisdom. That's the vibe he was getting off of this portal.
know everything. You
Yeah.
absolutely know everything and stuff like that.
But Kratos, like, here's the thing. Like Atomic said, it was a horrible plot point. We had so many moments where we were playing as Atreus, going to find this piece. Brock died over it, and just that entire scene of him trying to sneak away. He comes in, Tyr finally rises up. Hey, let me just hold on to that mask real quick. Right? He kills Brock, and they're fighting over it, and Kratos with this damn perfect aim just takes the mask. And
I can't get over this man shifting into the closet. He said, "I'm gonna make my escape." Go into the closet, but
like, we had so much emphasis and so much building of this mask, and it's just completely just got shattered away in a blink of an eye, just gone. I'm just like, and with Kratos talking about how there was a consequence, there's always a consequence. I was curious to see what was the true answers. Yeah, I like thought it was gonna be like that. Like he does it, and then you know how like some Disney movies or how other movies, the evil guy finally gets the item, and then when he finally uses it, it's like, haha, you got unlimited power, but now we got to take your soul, and you're gonna have unlimited power in hell.
I feel like
I
Ragnarok was,
I thought something like that was gonna happen. Like he finally gets the mask. We have an epic fight. He gets it. He's like, haha. He crawls over to it and he looks into it, and I don't know. He gets infinite wisdom, but like
it's
something
cursed.
happens.
It's kind of
He
like
tries to it.
just to toss a weeb anime in there. It's like JoJo Bizarre Adventure, and cars getting launched in space and heels.
I'm kind of pulling a DC, and I know how some people Crimson feels about DC.
And I'm just an anime guy. I like comics, but I'm more of an anime guy.
So I was talking to Combo about the mask after the game, and I was saying I kind of wanted them to pull, and I was fine with it because they do this. I kind of wanted them to pull kind of a dark side kind of thing because he wants the anti-life equation. So the anti-life equation, long story short, allows you to put your on the entire universe. And I thought it was going to be something equivalent of that because they were just like, because the Mimir's just like, oh, he's still playing with that stupid mask thing. It doesn't do anything. And I was just like, so where did Odin get the information that it unlocks unlimited knowledge?
So, crap, I have it written down, right?
See,
Atreus,
he lost his mind.
yeah. So I watched the cutscene. He basically said, I came across this when I was younger, and I spent all my time trying to find this, finding answers to a dead end, and then I found this thing, and he lifts up a piece of the mask, and he got the truth and wisdom part from Loki. Or Atreus, I'm sorry, because as again he said, as he approached it, he said, I could feel truth. I could feel. So yeah, upon first seeing so real quick, just the note I took, he said, upon first seeing the crack in space, Atreus states that he feels like knowledge, truth, all the answers, and that's the vibe Atreus personally got from the tear. So that's, I think.
I think.
They just explained it right there. Too.
No. That's what he felt. It gives off the power. That's what he felt.
So here's. I just want to say, I think would have been a really interesting plot point is that the game is called Ragnarok. Everything's happening with Ragnarok, but the real entire plot piece here, the main plot piece, is the mask, and this is all happening with Ragnarok happening around the mask. So I think that would have been
I don't see it that way.
Well, I'm saying like they should have played it like that for the game.
Oh,
that
okay,
all this is like all this is going on during Ragnarok, but the main plot piece is what that mask does and what it leads to. I think I would have been more satisfied with that. That's what I'm saying. Like I would have been more satisfied if they had warped Ragnarok's story to take place during Ragnarok. We're still doing everything to lead up to Ragnarok, but the real main plot piece here is the mask because we put so much emphasis on it. So we should have drawn that out a hell of a lot more with the mask as a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I was hugely disappointed when we destroyed it. We don't get answers. Like, I know some stories is like, oh yeah, answers are better left. Questions or whatever the phrasing goes about knowing the answer to some questions. But after spending so much time with the mask, doing side missions, getting buddied up with Thor to go collect the pieces, and the mystery behind it, especially after Odin's basically said, yeah, I've spent so much of my years trying to figure out the answers of this thing. You put so much mystery behind this only to just destroy it. Like after all that build up, after Brock dying, after Odin disappearing in his little broom closet, and Kratos managing to snatch them. I just want to say that, man, that was kind of, what's that? I can't think of a better word aside from cheesy. Like, bro, you managed to snipe the mask out of his hand just like that, no problem. Okay, but he did it. He managed to get it. But I'm just like, and the reason they had to push the assault, yeah.
Can we just ask Kratos, ask Korra to say, but start with K. He's a trained Spartan, right?
Yeah.
So why the hell were we struggling with two dragons while we're on that?
Oh yeah, that's another thing too. Just to quickly divert, the topic real quick about the mask. That was kind of annoying when you had the when they're all floating on a boat in the sky, and you got Kratos with an axe, a spear, two archers, and some spells, and it. Yeah, because they were going. He killed Heimdall. Remember, that was after killing Heimdall. Yeah, after you do all that, you got all these range skills on you, and it takes the dude. It takes the Bart, the tank to jump off the freaking boat to take down the dragons, and even then, it you made this impact of like, oh shit, he died, he sacrificed, bro. You just find him, just chilling, fine. That's what I was saying. And I was like. Yeah, but my point is like you take away from the impact. It's like in Fairy Tale where you thought characters died and you're just like, oh no, we're fine. Yep. Actually having Loki's
mask.
I probably.
I feel like there's something we're missing.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like bringing it back to the mask thing. It's like there's so many questions that just were not answered, and it was hugely disappointing just to destroy it.
Loki is the reference of Mask of Loki mythology. If you guys remember the Mask movie as well. There's a whole history. If that's
it, but I'm just like not allowing us to see it, even if it was a glimpse of answers as to what the mask was a huge letdown. And me and Korra were speculating. I don't know how they would be able to write this into it if it makes any sense at all. But imagine if exactly what you're saying, Crimson, is that it was the way I said was that could have been a way to bring Helena or someone into the plot. Like, oh, this, Odin spends imagine Odin spends all this time trying to get this mask, only for it to be like, hey, I tricked the trickster somehow, and it was actually a prison cell for Helena or something like that. So now Helena pops out, kill Odin and everybody. Now the trilogy happens, but there's possibilities here.
I just want to mention this real quick because I obviously, from those who have watched this channel, I don't know much about the Norse mythology. You guys just gave me all that trouble about me saying Greek and Greece, but the idea with because you know the movie Mask, right?
Yeah, with Jim.
Yeah, so you guys know, yeah, that's one aspect as well. And then there's the whole ability of Loki's mask is that the wearer pretty much has the ability to shape reality at his will. That is what Loki's mask is supposed to do.
But again, they could have.
And I
didn't know what the mask was.
I mean, but the thing is that at least seeing how they're not exactly 100% following Norse mythology as much as, if you reference it to other medias. So that's again, for me, that was just a huge disappointment. You spend so much time trying to figure out what this is. You find out that this is one of the things that Odin cares about the most, and you don't even answer that question as to what it is. And the only cop out, I would say, if people really wanted to say, is like, oh, well, it's supposed to be all knowledge, so you can just put 2 and 2 together yourself and figure that out. For me personally, that's just not good enough for me to say that makes sense.
Personally, I feel like from my
I'm getting bodied by Thor.
For my years of reading lore and stuff, I feel like someone who knows anything and everything that the universe has to offer, I control the universe. So when they were talking about all knowledge of all things of everything, I personally felt that if Odin had control of this power, he had the power of everything. That's what I thought, and that's why I knew we had to.
But
we can't have him get this mask.
Yeah,
should have gave a little bit more.
But it's just a lot of guessing.
That question, like, I wish it would just answer that. Like, as much lore as they put in here, like, you guys could paint on the damn wall or something to say, hey, Odin gets this shit, world blows up. Just give me some type of, like, actual closure of, like, why I don't want this guy to have this mask ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Especially with him saying this could be a way to stop Ragnarok from happening. Like, they're all inserting their idea as to what the mask was, but we just never know. And
at that point, you don't need to know, though. It's old.
What Mimir said, because Mimir said that. Yeah, Mimir has said that. He said if Odin really wants it, then it can't be good.
And that's where you could have had Atreus slapping on then, and he figured it out, and we view it from his eyes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as Atomic mentioned, like, we should have seen more of, like, okay, if Odin, we don't want Odin to get it, and if he did get it, then there should have been like, they had different ways to go about it. What you just said, Combo, is that Atreus could get it. They pull a Shulk. I don't know if you guys ever played the Shulk franchise on Nintendo. I can't remember what it's called, but Xenoblade. Thank you. When spoilers for those who haven't played.
I haven't played it.
He become okay. Anyway, in this game, stuff happens, right? So in Ragnarok, he could have been presented with the same opportunity. Okay, I now have all the power in the world. What do I want to do with it? I choose peace, right? Blah, blah. Or Odin gets it, and Kratos was always talking about there had to be a price to pay. We see what that price actually was. So they could have went 2 different scenarios, but instead they just decide, let's not do either of that and just destroy it. Okay.
Who said it was destroyed, though?
Bro, it was.
Sucked back
that's destroyed enough. Yeah, that's destroyed enough, man. The thing is, like, what I'm saying is that, as the viewers, that's how we understand it's destroyed. It could be sucked into a whole new universe and multi-dimensional stuff. But I'm just like, unless you're going to build off of it in another game, it's destroyed. So this
that's another reason why I wish they had went more into, like, how Kratos got there, because a part of me thought that this mask must have held some type of power to allow you to go between realities and different realms,
So who was it?
To a new game? I don't know.
Was it you or Mariah who were saying that the mask could have shown where Athena was located because she ascended?
I was talking to you about that.
Yeah. She ascended to a higher plane of existence, and the mask could have been like a view into that or something. I don't know.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, we didn't even get to see what happened to Athena after the 2018 version.
I think we have to let go of God of War.
The whole reason I'm saying is because you're leaving out an important plot piece. For me personally, as a viewer of this story, you are saying that the Greek mythology and the Norse mythology can shake hands. I'm curious, how does that happen? So when I keep bringing up Kratos getting here, that's me of saying, like, just like what Dom said, they can branch it into another realm now, because now they're saying that there is a way, there is a key plot for you to be able to walk between realities. And that's why I'm saying you should have answered that, because they could have played with the mask as well as part of that, and it could lead into another mythology. So that's just why I'm saying I wish they had talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
I
see
guess
that what Thor just said to him though right now?
Show me the rage, the beast, the monster, or something like that.
No, he just said you think you can just come to a new area, be a daddy.
Yeah.
You don't. It
You don't
doesn't
get a
work like
fresh
that.
restart. Yeah.
You're a destroyer like me.
That's
So,
another thing
so
too.
that
Is
kinda,
that
that's
go
I
ahead?
was gonna say, like, kind of this stuff, like what they say and what the dialogue, it really dives into a lot of these different thoughts that you're
Yeah.
having, dude.
Yeah.
You have to really look at and listen. Like they're in the middle of the fight, and like so that implies right there that Thor knows everything about Kratos.
So, and Tomic just said that as Atreus is collecting the pieces, you could slowly show what the mask is capable of, and you only get the full picture once you wear it, essentially. And I think that would have been interesting.
I mean, if it's low key's mask, I would have been okay with
I
it.
mean, it's just again, I understand some stories don't need to tell you just point blank tell you what happened, but there's when you introduce something with so many questions, like where did it originate from, where did this terror come from, like, and you don't answer those questions, and again you have character motives centered around that, you don't answer it, you're just like, bro, I feel like I was robbed. I'm just gonna say it, I feel like I was robbed. You know,
I do too. It's like they just say, well, we just don't want to give you no information, so
I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
they
it.
want you. I feel like they want. Honestly, I feel like at the end of the
Dang,
day, they
Kratos
want
getting
you
that
to feel
left.
like this, and
Mhm.
that there's gonna be a third
I
one.
want you to feel robbed.
I will be
Yeah.
okay. I would be okay if it's a third one, but doing stuff like
Or
that.
I don't think it'll be like a
doing stuff like
DLC.
doing stuff for
maybe
that,
they could do
leave
DLC,
that for
maybe.
Dark Souls. Let Dark Souls and other games that usually build their lore around reading items and stuff, and you got to search and figure it out yourself. But a game like God of War, when it's all cinematic with the way they do it, there's just too many.
The expectation is to have it presented to you. Like, you've already established that this is the way we're telling our story, so you can't be selective on when you want to read the lore entries. There you go.
Or just like, yeah, let's not put it in there. You know?
Yeah. So I think most of us can basically say the mask was disappointing. Dom's like, you know, maybe we'll learn more. Maybe this is the there will be a trilogy. Tyr, how we feel about our boy Tyr and the ultimate reveal?
I thought
Damn,
it was
how many more
cool.
bullet points do we got?
Yeah.
I mean, if y'all gotta go,
I
we can go.
loved it.
But
I
I'm
like
trying to play
Tyr.
League.
oh shit, okay, yeah.
Hey, look, we've been watching this God of War gameplay. I'm thinking about. I'm ready to go
Hey,
downstairs
we
and get.
talked about the combo.
All right, so how about this?
I
You can't have lore behind text in a game like God of War. Exactly, like you've already presented that
Agreed.
this is a game that's telling you the story. So I guess the closing point, and then we could talk about overall scores, is Ragnarok. When Ragnarok finally,
one game of the year.
Elden Ring gets my vote. I'm happy with Elden Ring winning. If God of War won, I can understand, like, it is a amazing game. I just don't think it hit that level of epic that Elden Ring did when it came. Like, Elden Ring came out, like, people were, that was just everywhere, man. Like, it was an event for Elden Ring. I'll put it that way. For me, at least, it was an event. I'm sure there's some huge fans of God of War that said Ragnarok was an event. Not to say it wasn't, but that's where Elden Ring is for me. So I'm fine with it. But I do want to talk about Ragnarok. Now, when it finally happened, how did we feel about Ragnarok finally happened? Was it as epic as we had hoped, or was it this? There we go.
It was disappointing.
It was disappointing.
I thought it was very underwhelming, especially
Everything's happening in the background.
Yeah, like Thor came and pulled me away, and I was just like, why wouldn't I want Thor and me to be fighting in the middle of everything happening? Like, you could see like what's happening to the characters in the background as like it's going on.
We finally get to see Jormungandr and Thor, who it's not actually Jormungandr. It's the snake that Atreus put the soul into, but it is because he got punched in the time. It happened in the background, and I was just like, this is Ragnarok. You know, like, it was, I mean, and that's why
That was just so random. I felt like they just had there's like, all right, you know, this is the end of the game.
it was okay, I guess. Yeah, pretty much. But that's kind
kill
of,
some people off real quick.
that's kind of why I feel like the game should have been a trilogy, because you just say, okay, team break, we're about to go get all the realms together. I was like, bro, imagine that was the third game, building your armies. That's the third, and then Ragnarok.
Right.
Not this quick, okay, you go here, you go there, break, and we split and do our thing. Like, that's where.
And I also felt like, I don't know, like Odin's fight to be during Ragnarok. I was just like, is anything happening outside at this point?
It was too contained. It was too contained.
It was too contained. Like I said, like I felt like you should have been in the
You don't
middle
get to
of what's
fight
happening.
Ragnarok yourself. Like at least attempt to hold him off. Like it felt for the most epic conclusion it was supposed to be. It just did not hit for me.
I'm watching the Thor fight, the entire first Thor fight, and again it just makes me come back to it like they just did not do that fight justice. Like, it initiate with us going back and forth, and Thor telling us like, "I want to see you really fight. I want to really see you fight." And he said, "The next time I see you, I gotta remind you, I'm not my sons. Like next time I see you, this is gonna end. This is gonna be over." So for us to finally,
your sons weren't that tough. So
yeah, right, but like that, we were talking about the whole Ragnarok fight happening. I keep going back to that fight because I feel like Thor and Kratos having their final fight, seeing how it was built up, and Thor is pretty much like their champion at this point, right? It just wasn't impactful. None of like the whole entire sequence of Ragnarok just was not really that impactful to me.
Okay, tell me this. I wanted to know your guys' opinion. What do you feel like there should have been more gods involved for this story? Like, do you think like Thor's wife should have been fighting you too? Like, do you think, like,
I don't really.
do you feel
don't
like
think so.
I don't think so.
the only reason why I asked, like, do you feel like you got the pushback of Asgard? Like,
That's one thing
like,
too.
God of War 3, like you feeling like Olympics is trying to stop Kratos, but do you feel like Asgard was like trying to push back Kratos, like keep this from happening? Because the only person that seemed like to be like concerned about Ragnarok was Odin.
I don't think there was any like with her fighting back. I could understand it because they had established pretty early on who their main big hitters and who the main fighters are going to be, Odin and Thor.
And then
as well as
Nah,
Valkyries
who's
as
Nas in the
well.
back. So how do y'all feel
Yeah.
about Nah being a background side character? Like, yeah, that's my Queen of the Valkyrie. I know in the previous game they were, but the way the story was told, them being their side content made sense. Here with Nah, or how you pronounce her name, being a side character who, she's the general or whatever for Odin's army. She's just like, oh yeah, you don't fight me at all for the main campaign. You don't deal with me at all.
You don't deal with me at all. And I'm like looking at I'm re-looking at the Odin fight. The background is ugly. It's foggy. You don't see shit happening.
The
Limitation.
entire sequence was short. Like the entire boss fight sequence itself was short. At least with Zeus, you had like
He said,
a variety of different phases during the entire fight.
I'm pretty sure during the
When y'all were
Odin fight, Ragnarok was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, hold up, I forgot my sword.
I just think it would have been so cool to see, like, as you're fighting, like, for example, Zeus, or not Zeus, Thor, like, you see, like, a dragon falls in between you two, and, like, it's affecting
The scale is just like,
of action.
yeah.
Like, you're feeling like you're on a battlefield, but it just feels like contained. Like, you're just like,
was
I'll
very
just go over
contained.
here.
It was extremely contained. And again, that's why I feel like this should have been a trilogy where you have that middle section of finding out the mass, Atreus' story, Ironwood, etc. And then the trilogy is where you're really pushing towards, okay, now we're really eventually getting into Ragnarok. This is, we're building up, we're getting the realms on our side. We're trying to figure out how to get them together. And then when Ragnarok happens, it's this really huge, epic conclusion. And I didn't get it here. So unless anyone's got something else to say, I guess it's just overall, if you want to slap a score on it and your overall.
Wait.
Yeah, go for it.
R.I.P. Brock.
Oh, yeah, Brock dying. That's the.
Can we talk about the effect of Sindrick?
Sindri's character?
Yeah, Sindri's character.
I felt bad for her, man.
Like,
I felt really bad for dude. Like, he did all this he welcomed you into his home. He was there for Atreus sneaking out to see Freya and doing so much just for his brother to get killed. He gets slapped to the side by Atreus when he turned into a bear, just disrespected. And
well, I'll say this much. Notice how he was talking all mad crap to Atreus, but when it was time for Brock's funeral and he was about to say something reckless to Kratos, he thought twice and didn't say it.
I mean,
it was like, what? It's not his fault. Like,
I know. I'm just trying to be funny.
there you say, dude, oh, you ain't talking shit to me, G. No.
Right.
Dom's probably playing League in the background right now. I'm sorry, man. We're wasting his time. So, yeah, let's, unless anyone has something else they want to.
Sindri definitely got the short end of the stick because we also forgot that when he ran out of there, he knocked the crap out of him. Atreus knocked the crap out of him on his way out. But then they kind of rehashed it up again. So I get that he wanted to point blame at somebody, but at the same time, it's like he Odin fooled everyone. Odin fooled everyone,
Exactly.
and then technically Sindri brought back his brother when he was already dead. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
Their
He
head.
had
while
a
I
huge
yeah
180. Like the
while I
dude.
do while I do understand Sindri being upset, it's like I do kind of wish he had his moment of grief, and instead of putting all the blame towards Atreus, that he actually was like, okay, Odin
No.
tricked me. Odin tricked
No.
me.
That's
Just
kind of that was
just
kind of
let me
No.
finish,
his.
guys. Let me
No.
finish. Let me finish, guys. Let me finish.
Mariah will mute you. No, joking.
Let me finish. That he's like, okay, Odin, he's the one that stabbed everybody in the back. I'm mad at Atreus for whatever I'm mad at for, but when Brock died, he said it himself, you have to let me go. So it's like you brought your brother back when he had already passed, and now he's even telling you, I should have stayed dead, so you have to let me go. So I don't know, I felt like that could have been drawn out better, but instead what he took away from it, instead of like my brother died and I brought him back when I technically should not have, and I didn't tell him that, and now my own brother is telling me that now that he's died a second time, I need to let go. That was still a part of Sindri's character to develop as well. So that was just my take on it.
I guess like I feel like because the entire time, like I'm just jumping back to what you said. You criticized Freya for giving so fast,
Hmm.
and I think that it goes back to Sindri. He can't forgive that fast. Like, and I think it's realistic to be like, my brother just died. He doesn't even get an afterlife. This like I'm mad at everyone, but I'm more mad at myself. Like I'm not gonna like this is supposed to be in the span of a day. Like I don't. I feel like to say he forgave everyone at the end would be too Disney. Like that would be kind of corny. I'm just like, no, you be pissed. You be pissed for a very long time, and I feel like it would just kind of go back to your criticism of Freya, like forgiving Kratos or forgetting Odin too fast. But Sindri should have kind
Well,
of
I'm not saying shake hands with Atreus and call him
right,
brother
right,
again, but I'm
right.
saying that he didn't like Brock. Okay, Brock saying you need to let me go, and the fact that he brought him back to life, I feel like Sidri took nothing from that. And
Right.
I understand that he's angry, but I still feel like there was no takeaway. I'm not saying forgive him and shake hands and have a tea party, but he did still make a good point. Your brother was dead. He's been dead this entire time. And part of the reason why he now has no soul to go is because you decided to bring him back the first time. And now even he's telling you to leave me alone. So you should have still been able to be like, damn, I hate Atreus because he's dead. So yeah, mourn for his loss. But like, let's not act like you brought your brother back when you really shouldn't have. And now that did still cause a lot of extra stuff. And then you kept it from him as long as you did too. And then even though he didn't tell you from the jump that he already knew when they came back, when his final day was there, and he said, "You need to let me go." So that's what again saying like I still feel like Sindri still like his. Yeah, don't forgive him because yeah, you're right on that. Don't forgive him the day after, but outside of forgiving Atreus, his entire development or just how he could have handled that entire situation, that could have did a little bit more than him just I hate everybody now and not even address what Brock said
Uh,
Yeah.
or address
I
his
I think it's
problems.
I just think it's a good way to like show grief.
yeah.
Like when he walked in and busted Odin's bubble, like the little
Mhm.
ball marble, because everyone's like, we should forgive.
I don't
Sindri's
know.
like, no, forget that.
Yeah, no,
I want like
A-Town
I don't
Stump.
understand why they even said that in the first place. Kill that dude.
You strangled the fuck
right.
out of this man, enjoying it, and he was like, I don't know.
He enjoyed
Right?
it. He's just like enjoying it. But I understand what you're saying, but I really think leaving Sindri like it's the casualty of war. Like I really that's what Kratos was trying to point out to Atreus. People aren't gonna, go into this and come out unscathed. And I just guess they picked him to be the character, to suffer the most. And that's what Atreus was learning. He's just like, how do I fix this? And
Kratos is like, you can't sometimes.
Kratos is like, you can't. Yeah,
Hmm.
you can't sometimes. And I guess like Sindri at the end just being like, my brother's gone and I don't even know who to be mad at. Like I'm mad at myself, yes, but I can't blame anyone. It shows that form of loss. But I get what you're saying, but I definitely like the idea they didn't Disney that one.
Hmm.
I call it Disney.
Disney, the Disney effect. Okay. So we're going long for this. We're going long on this topic. I'm gonna do a rapid fire question for you guys, and then we can get to our overall conclusion and thoughts of the game. No, Mjolnir not being unwielded was a huge miss in my book. This is one of the most hyped up weapons in Norse mythos, especially because of Marvel, whatever. And we don't get to use it, and that was a huge miss for me. That's it.
As I said before, I would have been okay with it being a DLC piece.
Yeah.
Hey, you can now go to Muspelheim
or post game location.
Yeah. You know,
would you be mad if you could use it as like a mod on the axe?
But someone would probably figure it out. But that was a huge miss. You know the huge impact of this weapon, especially at the teaser clip at the end of 2018, and you just don't get it. And like but I was just like,
It was more so just to show you that Thor was coming.
Yeah,
but I'm just overall, it's just like it's a important weapon. Everyone knows it's important, and you just don't let us use it. So
what's those conclusions?
So
I might play some Witcher, or I might play some more Smash.
I'll probably play some Destiny. So who wants to start with conclusion? Crimson, go.
Oh dang!
Slap a score on it and your overall thoughts of the game.
Okay,
and then story.
I'll be the one to say it. I will give it an 8. The only reason I will give it an 8 is because. Yeah, the only reason I would give it an 8 is because I do feel like, again, the story elements was just such a letdown. Ironwood took way too much time for me. The mask fiasco, that was just like, it was such a huge buildup for it, and that let me down as well. And then just the melee system. Melee system is still fine. You know, as I'm thinking about it, I'll go back up.
Decide. You're on the record, bro.
I still between an 8 and 9, so I'm saying an 8 right now, but I could probably
you could leave it to 9, yeah.
Yeah. Side missions and see how you feel.
Once I play the rest of the side missions, so I'll stick with the 9, and mainly because I just feel like the story just.
Wait, you stick with 9 or 8?
9. I'll stick with a 9.
Okay.
Because I still feel like there's so much more that again, when I was playing the game, it's the first game in a really long time that just. When I pick it up, I'm excited to 100% this game. So that's why I'm sticking with a 9. But again, the biggest weakness is just the story. How they set it up and how they delivered in the very end. As we all agreed on, when I booted this game up, a big-ass smile was on my face. It was like, this is Ragnarok. Let's see what this game has to offer. And that anticipation just like slowly dwindled down as we started doing like side quests, and the story just kind of, and then there was a few highlights where I was like, yes, there we go. And then it just went back down again. So that's my
fair.
take.
Sounds like, never mind, go ahead.
We're going down the list. Dom, what you think, bruh?
I want to say that 2018 set a crazy high standard on what we wanted and what we should expect. With that being said, I still think that this game was a 10. Initially, after I beat it, I was like, it's a 9.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I finished the game 100%. And then as I looked at Morale, I was like, this game's a 10. I don't care. It's a 10.
God of War rating 8 out of 10. Brick Brock fuck
like,
Odin.
regardless of what they could have executed on more. Or
Kratos best stack, Fenrir best taco.
It's still a 10. Like, it's just there was more character development with Kratos, more with Atreus. There was more everything, honestly, in my opinion. And I feel like they did build on what needed to be built on. And there's always different ways of writing this stuff or approaching the story, taking Atreus out. But what do you do if you take Atreus out? You put more Kratos in there? You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot to be said or had. And at the end of the day, I still give it a 10, regardless. And I still feel like if there is a third one, by some chance, more people that don't give it a 10 will give it a
10. In retrospect.
I also agree with you that I am kind of bummed out that after we beat the game that Atreus left, because I had kind of put some points into his runic abilities.
Yeah, that kind of hurt me too.
Especially the.
Wait, come back.
I was like,
Freya could at least take him, you know.
That's what I thought too. I was like, hey, I just upgraded Bitter Squirrel. I didn't really use Bitter Squirrel as much as I should have, and I saw how useful it was. So I was definitely looking forward to doing the Muspelheim challenges.
It reminds me of that one game where you lose that one character, and yeah. Yeah. So, Cora, what score you give it and reason?
2018 2018, I gave it 10 out of 10. It's one of the best PlayStation 4 games I ever played. Coming in on PlayStation 5 with Ragnarok, I give it a 9 out of 10. A lot of things to me, I felt like Atreus' story was just too, I guess, annoying as an adult player. I don't know, maybe that's my bias. Kratos' story was amazing. I loved how he was opening up about just himself, the gameplay, the combat, um, just certain things like was talked about. Like Ironwood was a very big slowdown. It made me dread the Atreus missions a lot more. Um, I felt like the Ragnarok just didn't live up to Ragnarok, unfortunately. But that doesn't make it a bad game whatsoever. I just think that's just maybe design that needed to be probably a little bit more worked on in the background. Um, I definitely feel like this should have been a trilogy. I definitely have my, fan, rewrites that I wish I could have been in the writing room for, but I wasn't, so here I am. So, 9 out of 10 for me. I would play it on New Game Plus when it comes out, and I hope that maybe if they do, the next one, even if it's not a direct sequel or trilogy to it, I hope it still builds on to Ragnarok and maybe explain a couple things we all had questions for. So,
Okay.
thoughts.
I am in agreement with you as well. I will give it a 9 out of 10, purely for, I'll put it this way, 2018, I do think it was a 10 because of the way it took the character and a new approach to the story. And I felt the story was more, the start to finish, the whole goal of the story I felt was better than here. Here, obviously, it's a sequel, so the improvement to the gameplay is definitely there. But the story is the main thing where it missed for some sections for me. With this being the final entry point, this is supposed to be Ragnarok. It just did not hit that scale that I was kind of hoping for, and that's why I really do feel like it should have been a trilogy to really have that middle section of Atreus finding his way and discovering the difference in the prophecy, all the in betweens. And then in the final third, real Ragnarok is where, because just looking at the way the game started, it's like there's this weight of like we're in this cave, it's cold, it's crazy out here in Midgard, it's snowing. Then you hit the Svartalheim, it's like, bro, it's nice and sunny out here, it's cool. Like that urgency, that weight was just not there for a good chunk of the game. Like I felt like it was another adventure and dad and boy type of deal. But the reason I didn't like it here was because of the expectation I had for the title Ragnarok.
Also throughout the game too, there was a lot of moments where they're like, well, brother, this is Ragnarok, so shit is happening right now. We got wisps popping up now. We got spirit. What was those bosses we had? That was like the spirit orb.
We had to fight that thing. By the way, was that animation behind that thing? That was next level. That was good. But this game is just polished to such a degree. That's the thing too.
Throughout the game, they kept saying like, Ragnarok is on its way, and it's just causing a lot of issues throughout the realm. After a while, I just kind of stopped seeing that.
That urgency was gone.
Yeah, the wisp was one of the few things that showed up because Ragnarok is going on. But it would have been nice to see more like creatures and other parts of the other realms being affected. Not, oh, well, normally it's wintertime, but now this is Ragnarok, it's summertime now. Like, oh.
It's Fimbulwinter, so that's a separate. Like Fimbulwinter is a separate thing, but it's still that weight of what you're expecting the world to be like, and it wasn't really there. Like everybody's kind of hanging out, and some realms had it different, but still, the mask plot being unsolved was a huge disappointment for me. Like we put so much effort into finding out or getting the mask, and seeing that Odin cares. Odin cares so much about it, and nothing. Yeah, exactly. The Ironwood section, you do all this work to collect the fruit, help her grandma out, and that didn't really do anything to the story. The only thing that I recall really happening with the marble was that Atreus put Odin's soul into the marble, which got destroyed literally seconds later. So that was wasted plot point for
the boss fight.
What was that, Dom?
Yeah, Odin's.
Sorry, I just had to sneak that in there.
I didn't hear.
Odin's boss fight, Thor's boss fight.
That scale was just not there. I was just Ragnarok happening, like Ragnarok happening in the background. It just it just didn't carry the weight that I wanted to have, and the whole Fenrir being put into the doll that could cut realms open. felt
really
like a
happened with
wasted
that.
plot point too. Like, yeah, he showed up at one point in the fight, and then he helps you escape at the end, but it still just didn't really do enough for me. You know, that's the issue I had. Mjolnir, I still wish we got to wield it. It was just, to me, it just feels like a huge missed opportunity when you know this is one of the most well-known weapons in Norse mythology, especially, again, going off the Marvel film. You see everybody hyped up about Thor and this, that, and the other, but still, and you just don't get to use it. That was a miss. And the way they handled some content later, like when you find the real tier, and I was like, bro, we done spent so much about this game learning about you, the previous game hearing about you, and then when we find the real you, it's kind of just like, oh, you'll find me in some locations. It's extremely underwhelming.
Yeah.
Extremely.
And that's why I'm saying I keep going between that 8 and 9. 'cause, like,
The more you think about it.
no, seriously, the more I think about it, the more I was kind of disappointed because when I was rushing to beat the game, and that's another thing. When I had the perspective like, okay, I need to beat this game by Saturday, and I was trying to rush through it, I was really in that motion of just, okay, we're hitting
that
a.
sucked for you
Well,
more because you were rushing through when there was parts like the Atreus parts.
Yeah, but
that needed its time.
well, when I was saying what was
I'd say rushing more so like
the reason I was
skipping
saying-
side content.
the reason why it was kind of bringing me down going straight through the story is because there was parts of the story that hit a high rise. I'm like, okay, shit is happening, and then I got dropped off, and then it's like, okay, shit is happening, then I got dropped off. So since I was just head down, just going straight through the story, I hit those bumps, and I realized just how often I would get a peak. And then I just get dropped off with Atreus going off and doing some dumb shit like freeing the dog and like
Yeah,
Atreus
that
was like of all characters, honestly, Atreus pissed me off more than any other character in the entire game.
you had to trust me. Take a shot every time you said trust me. Trust me. Trust me. I was like, God damn it, can we stop? Let me continue, please. Again, yeah, the mask, like, why did it lead us to the dog and then that was the wrong spot? And some people, I think someone said, well, I think you find the real part in a different part of Helheim, or were you in a whole different location where the tree and the Odin Ravens are? But nonetheless, it was still a wasted point. You find
we were in Niflheim.
yeah, so it's an entirely different realm.
Yeah,
And some people like someone said, in Reddit, that was like the realms are stacked up top of each other. Maybe that's why. And I was like, that's just that.
I thought it was attached
that was
to the dog.
Yeah, exactly. Through you again with Mjolnir, it's just some things they chose not to put into a cutscene or have like a moment behind it. Like you find Thrud and what she does with Mjolnir, I was like, that's it. That's a side content. That's it for one of the most important weapons and stuff in the game. Sif, her change to help everyone. I know they had the behind closed door delivery of Thrud or Sif and Thor. I still just kind of feel like the way they presented some of the story, like the way they presented the story, I think they could have done a better way to tell the story. So overall, I have to give it a 9 because despite the issues I did have, like the overall presentation of this game is still good. The story, despite having its moments where I'm just like, wow, that's kind of lame, were still good. They just didn't hit as well as they could have. So I couldn't really drop it to an 8. I can definitely still understand giving it an 8 though, because of depending on how much you weigh the story. Because again, the plot points were just missed in so many ways. But I still gotta give it a 9 because this game is still an epic game. It's just, man, y'all missed it. Like I truly believe this should have been a trilogy. And you guys could have expanded more, especially on the new hardware. I'm sure there's some design choices they couldn't have done because of the limitation of the console. That's probably why, like, the Ragnarok happening in the background instead of you fighting through Thor as things hopping off, like you're fighting on top of Jormungandr or something like that, or you're fighting across. Yeah, and you're fighting across Ragnarok and stuff like that.
And do you guys remember when you fought Kronos?
Yeah, the giant.
Poseidon.
Yeah.
When you fought Hades, when you fought Zeus, when you fought Hephaestus.
I mean, those were in arenas, but it was still.
But still, all those boss fights had some weight behind them, though.
Yeah.
Like they all were memorable in their own way.
Yeah, because when you're fighting him, he punches the Coliseum ground, and you're just like running up until steal the Cestus off him and start beating the shit out of him. But yeah, it's just.
Against Boulder, like
So yeah. So yeah, this is. I do feel like this should have been a trilogy to really expand upon and improve more. Like the gameplay, as much as I loved it, I did hate finding Vanaheim and be like, "Hey, you found this runic attack from the first game." I'm like, okay. So
I loved it a lot from the first game. also I did say that was really good how they took some of the runic attacks that were from
And
the
just
first game and
morphed them
made them
into
regular abilities.
yeah. So
Yeah,
and
the glaive, the glacier great glaive. I
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah, I
the
like
knives,
that.
but yeah, the
Yeah,
side
knives, thank
content
you.
is still good, but especially yeah, I'm just gonna keep going back and forth. So it's a 9 in my book. I really do feel like a trilogy could have been the best approach and really expand even further with what they could have done and had this actually meet the scale. Like the last main thing is that for a tale about gods, I just did not think the scale was there for a lot of it, and that's where I was kind of
Same.
it was very contained. Like the intro point was the only time I really felt like this was we were gods fighting a war against each other. Then the rest of it was kind of contained. And for you guys,
Ragnarok was the war.
yeah, but it was still contained. So another thing too is
That wasn't really a war.
I kind of feel, and you might disagree. I kind of feel that Kratos should have died in this story, and the reason I say this is that early on, when Atreus is dealing with Fenrir and him passing on, you already set the expectation that this is going to be a tale about coming to terms with grief and losing someone. You really start to, the only ones was, who was it, Brock and Fear? And of course the bad guys, Thor and Odin, but everyone else is kind of...
It becomes Atreus' story, and then we got to play the next one. And
but, you know, you killed the Traveler guy. Well, he was still alive, actually. You killed Fenrir. Fenrir comes back. You're hinting that Kratos is going to die. Now he's fine. So I'm just like, you give this expectation of grief, and then you don't really carry through with it. And with the people you did die, it was the only one that actually had impact was Brock, because I didn't expect it, and you kept him the way he was, and you see Sindri's dealing with it, but everything else was just
I'm okay that he didn't die. I would have been fine if there was a moment where we thought he did, and they really played it so well that damn, he died. Like Atreus took his soul, right? Maybe they could have did that. He took his soul, and then they just had to do some crap. I don't know, some magical mythic shit, and now he's back alive. And haha, he's not dead. I would have been okay with that, but
yeah.
I'm actually happy that he didn't die, because from a story perspective, this is probably, as you guys probably tell, I'm really into stories. From a video game perspective, if it's just a hack and slash game for sure, but if it's like we emphasize on storytelling, like Metal Gear
Like
Solid
Last of
5,
Us,
my favorite game of all time, because of how well they were able to tell the stories and build up
4?
the characters. 4, yes, Metal Gear Solid 4. With Kratos, right? With Kratos, I love seeing him finally meet more friends, because we knew what he went through in the original trilogy, right?
It was happy to see.
Yeah, I was happy to see this dude finally. Like, I was like, man, this dude finally got some time to.
Oh yeah, I was happy for him at the end. It's just my issue is that the way you introduce the story and giving that weight, you kind of just take it away. Again, it's like the fairy tale thing. Like, oh shit, someone died. You're like, oh, then you're like, JK guys, he's still alive. Like, oh, I was expecting something heavy, and Freyr dying just wasn't really it. It was only Brock. It was literally only Brock that had me like, damn, shit.
He had already died before.
I feel like instead of killing Kratos, I feel like I wish I had a moment of feel like maybe he really could die.
Like at the end when he pushes him through Ragnarok or something like that, and that was just, oh dad, hey.
Like getting stabbed or knocked in the head, or like some moment when you're just like,
he got both of those things.
No.
He got smacked in the head. Yeah, Freya did stab.
Stabs him, and Thor came in with the hammer from.
You're just like, this is the first 5 minutes of the game. Like when Thor knocked him in the head, that was the first 20 minutes of the game. I mean, when Ragnarok is happening, Odin is literally pushing Kratos to the limit, and you're just like,
yeah. Actually, now that you mention it, was there a moment where he was literally on the edge of his ropes, aside from the first fight with Thor, where he got overpowered?
The only time I think Kratos really let shit rip was when he was fighting Heimdall. That's the only time I really think Kratos had to say let loose and just go all out. Thor, it didn't feel, not even with Odin, it didn't feel like he was being pushed to his absolute limits as a guy like guy versus guy.
Yeah,
go ahead, Don.
Something real quick.
Yeah.
So right here, you guys just noticed Loki or Atreus released Fenrir's soul. And the 3 little things flew up, right?
Yeah.
So.
But they were in his knife now.
But did they go to his knife? Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't even know. I didn't notice that.
No, yeah, we didn't know that. Yeah.
You don't notice that. It didn't really show it go to the knife. It just showed it float up right now, right? As we're rewatching it. And if you remember when Sindri banged on Odin's
The marble.
He did the same exact thing.
It went to his knife.
So
He's hinting
into the air.
It didn't,
Oh,
destroy
okay.
the orb and then nothing happened. It destroyed the orb and you saw Odin's spirit move, go away. And then, I feel like honestly, dude, I think there's gonna be a third one, and if there is, this game.
I wouldn't be surprised if it will be, but I feel like if it's a third one, it's not a continuation. It's just a new journey. That's pretty much it.
Might be. I would wrap up some stuff in the beginning and then maybe go into a new.
Yeah, and with him and the marbles, well, yeah, him and Angry Boda family.
Or freaking DLC.
I'd be okay with
or just do like a something else. Like,
I would be okay with. I will be okay with the ending here because unless we do a spinoff and it's about Loki and his story, my thing would be is like, okay, so what's the word I'm looking for? What's the theme here? Okay, what is Kratos doing from this mythology to this mythology to this mythology? There's got to be some type of thing and some ultimate goal for us to continue this. Trilogy popping up.
Yeah, they continue the game. 4 parts of his soul left Fenrir body, but the one part of his soul went to Atreus' knife.
Yeah, because there are 4 parts. But Mir talked about that. You do have 4 parts.
Oh yeah, no. Well, the same thing happened with Brock too. He only got returned in 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 of the 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, they have so much wiggle room to make a.
So how does that affect? How does that affect Fenrir now that he took over Garm's body? Now that he's missing one, because that homie, he looks fine though.
Hey, if he dies again, he won't get into Wolf Afterlife or Wolf. What's that word?
This dog.
What's their high word? What's it called for them? Valhalla. Yeah, Fenrir doesn't go to Valhalla.
A warrior's death. You have to die a warrior. Yeah, die as a warrior with your weapon in your hand.
Yeah. So okay, so we got a 10. There, Crimson. What are you at? You at 8, a 9? You said 8.
Do we got the 0.5 system? Do we do the like?
You can do a 0.5 if you want to.
Doing floats. I say 8.5.
Don't hit me with that 8.9.
Nah. Too much water. 8.9. Too much snow. And 8.5. But again, that's just from a story perspective.
Yeah, for a game of this caliber or the story.
Of this caliber, and with so many different plot points that they brought up, Thor, the entire fight with Thor, Atreus' ability to steal souls and use souls. They only did it like 3 or 4 times of the entire series. Her grandma popping up and her cauldron, like she was making such a big fuss about her cauldron. What did that? I was even curious, like what is the cauldron?
They explained it.
Like everybody's getting whooped, and like this that's just my whole end point. A lot of stuff happened. There was a lot of big key elements that they just didn't deliver.
Yeah, some of it just didn't pay off.
Exactly. Yeah, that. And that's why I say the whole 8.5. Other than that, again, this is the first game in a really long time that made me say, I am happy to get off at 4 o'clock, hit the gym, and this is a game I'm going to be ending my night with because it is a fantastic game. But from a story perspective, I have a lot to be left dissatisfied with.
I can see that, but that I get that, and I still gave it a 10. Like, I see what you're saying. From a story perspective, I don't think the story makes it a 10. I think the entirety of it makes it
a 10. No, that's fair.
As a finished bow on the title, and that's another thing. That's what I was saying. Like, if we were looking at it from a perspective, like this game as a standalone product, I would give it a 9. I would bump it up to a 9 because it's like, all right, if I had no investment, I didn't really care about story as much as I did, I would still give it a 9 because at the end of the day, I was still like, yo, so what happened to the mask? But other than that, I still think the game as itself, I still feel like as I played, Santa Monica had a lot of love for this game. They had a lot of love and a lot of thought for with the accessibility. I appreciated stuff like that. Seeing the graphics and just everything else in between. A finished product, yes, I would give it up to that. Hell, I even thought, okay, maybe this could be Game of the Year as I was playing it, even though I was all for Elden Ring.
If Elden Ring wasn't in the runner-up, yeah, it got it hands down, unless something else.
Yeah.
Halo Infinite was on the list. Sorry, fam, you ain't winning. It's got to work. Yeah, you're not even in the conversation. So, but yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, we already covered. Should have been a trilogy. Should have been Game of the Year. We all said yeah. So, I think that's it.
Atomic too for joining us.
Yeah, Atomic, you the OG, you triple OG, man. Really appreciate you. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say outros, but I think it's really just Dom who has. Unless Crimson wanted to share his channel as well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that. So, my channel is also Crimson Slayer 7. I also have the same name on TikTok. I just do short videos, mostly AMVs and GMVs. So, if you appreciate anime as well as video games of likes and music, feel free to stop on over and take a look.
Appreciate you, Atomic. Thanks.
Yeah, just copy and paste my. Yeah, we appreciate you for real. That's good, man. And same thing for me. You can just should be Domdingo, yeah, at Domdingo1 on YouTube, and then I can link my Twitch right now for you.
Yeah, I'll post it. Like I said, once we close out, I'll post it in the description for guys to check them out. So, and for me, you can find me here. You guys are to go. You can find me here, Twitch, Twitter at Triple Combo Gaming, talking video game stuff. I don't know if you guys ever figure out a way to turn this into an actual show. That'd be nice. If not, this is probably the once and the only spoiler cast, unless there's another heavy game we all got to talk about or something like that.
I can jump up on Sekiro and jump onto that. I actually appreciated this podcast. I like talking about video games. I like having
Yeah.
I like having some fans on the side to chat in with us. So I definitely wouldn't mind making this happen again. But for a game for us to sit down and talk about, that's something we can take offline.
Yeah.
If we play Sekiro, it would be nice to have a fresh, perspective.
Yeah, we all just play the game in X amount of months, but all right. He ain't rushing. No, he can't. He can't. Ring that bell. Have him do the extra stuff. But all right, all right, we're all good. We all said our piece. I'm about to
this next Saturday.
Once again, and Atomic Teal, you the goat. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Or well, I don't know, you're junior. I'm sorry, but thanks for being here. And I'm gonna hit the stop stream button.